the
Mind you, this took longer than Stranger Things to film.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like it. Zendaya's mom was talking shit. You know, but
Wait,
I think
her mom in real life?
yeah, her mom in real life was talking shit. You know what? I think though, honestly, I think that hey, sorry guys, I don't know what happened. The show just fucking dropped off. I don't know what happened. Oh, you're live by the way, Kins. They were. I didn't know that Zendaya or is it Zendaya?
Zendaya.
I didn't know Zendaya and what's the white girl with the big boobs?
Faye?
No, I mean the
Or
real
Chloe
actress.
Carey?
The actress.
Chloe.
I don't even know who Chloe is. I'm talking about the
Is it-
white girl with the boobs who made soap so that dudes could use in the bathroom. Sydney Sweeney. I didn't know them two girls had a. I knew that people were saying it was a feud, but I think it was fake. I'll be honest. Did you see Jay-Z's freestyle and he talks shit about everybody?
No.
Hold up. Let me call you right back. Yo, can you hear me? I'm live, right? So what happened was I tried to get the IG to go on another computer and it literally notched everything off. So no, I fucked up. I had gotten the times wrong. So no, I had already messaged him. Yeah, I told him I had you on before. So yeah. No. We're good. We're straight. I messed that tweet up, but I already fixed it. So the one I sent you just now, that's the one. Okay, because I was live for the last 30 minutes, but something happened. I tried to go live on IG and it just literally blew up the whole show. So all right, I'll see you soon. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened there. Sucks because we had built up a nice little live there, but that's all right. We're good. I'm just gonna do re-promote. But right now, we got the Booker of all Bookers. They call him Booker G. I call him Booker 100% from the free throw line. Never mind, he coming back. But yeah, Abe's jumping on right now. While he's doing that, let me go ahead and retweet the stuff. Yeah, Abe's jumping on right. That's me. Oops. The Booker G man himself, 100% from the WWE prediction free throw line. Hey, Alex, what's up, champ? Shout out to Alex. Appreciate you for coming back, Alex. Sorry about that.
Hey, listen, man. You already know what it is. This is the moment, aside from the AAA event, that everybody's been waiting for right here,
Exactly.
right now, for us to talk about this situation, the whole situation, and Las Toxicas fan club.
Hell yeah, bro. Hey, listen. Hey, Alex said it on Monday's show. He's like, all I need is La Carolina, and you could put that show on for 3-4 days. Just keep AAA, just have her come on and we'll watch him, champ. But yo, so much, dude. So much to talk about. And I know we're not gonna get the chance to talk about Shakur and Foster. I've already given that up, so that's cool because there's so much here. I want to start actually with the AAA stuff. Best show of the year for me so far, with Double or Nothing and the CMLL show, I feel like are like the easy leaders, but match of the year, I don't think it's being beat. That was the standard for the highest quality that wrestling is capable of, right? It's been about 25 years since I realized that WWE is a show with predetermined outcomes. Doesn't make it fake at all. I believed, Abe. I believed in that night, right? when Chad Gable took off that mask and started crying, I don't know. I think there was onions hiding under my bed. I think my wife was making cilantro. I don't know what was going on, but there was just tears. And so I couldn't really see straight. But everything about it, like we talk about matches that have winners, we talk about those matches that have performances that elevate everyone involved. And I think that's what we saw that night, similar to Cotto and Mayweather. What did you think of the overall event? And talk us through the mask v mask.
Listen, the overall event. All right, I'm gonna go on a limb right now. Leading candidate for event of the year,
Absolutely.
match of the year, storyline of the year, and individual performances of the year. Now, that's saying a lot, but I'm telling you that these guys, man, and I'm gonna take it just a little bit. I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper here. That first Ray Phoenix match, bro. First of all, I think that Ray Phoenix was like in some type of ridiculous shape for that match, because some of the stuff that he was doing, and at the pace that he was doing it, ridiculous. Like there's not a lot of guys that would be able to maintain that type of pace and cardio and still be able to function. And he did that like it was easy. But on the flip side, though, his boy and me, and because I be getting the Laredo kid, bro. When he did that, what was that version of the DDT that he did?
Oh, oh my God. And I wrote it in. Hold it. Go ahead. I'm gonna find it. I have my Triple H.
When he did that, I said, yo, this is a different kind of specialty here, man. These guys, listen, that whole card was crazy. But look, mask on mask. Oh, and I forgot to add something. Biggest pop of the year.
Yes, absolutely. Good. I'm glad you brought that up too.
Because I'm gonna tell you, when El Grande Americano came into the ring, first of all, when he turned around and he had the Mexico thing on his jacket, bro, pop central. I popped ridiculous. And you know what? It's crazy because I didn't see it live, so I didn't want to get caught up in the hoopla, like, trying to react emotionally from live. I watched it last night, like with no interruptions.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa, this is special. The storytelling was special. Gable bringing his wife and kids was special. And what people didn't notice is that right before he took his mask off, his son took his mask off in the ring.
Oh shit! I remember that now.
And that was
that. Oh,
that was
hard.
That was an extra little layer.
Yes, those little details that because look, if you've been a wrestling fan long enough, I think you've seen it all, right? So those little details attribute to making it their own. You know what I'm saying?
And he was dressed as Chad Gable. If you notice his attire, the little kid was dressed as Chad Gable. And he removed the mask, and then the pops removed that. So it was just everything about this event, the call outs, the interference, like everything was super perfect. The crowd was into it every single, I can't say enough about what happened on Saturday night. It was magic. It was magic. And I initially thought that Gable would win because he has so much heel heat that would put him over the top with heel heat. Yeah. But because of how the night was going, it had to be the way it was. And the other thing is that Triple H, he knew already ahead of time that it was as big as it was because he tweeted it out, and he don't tweet out stuff about Triple H shows that much.
No, ever.
But I don't think that they anticipated what it was going to be and what that atmosphere was going to be.
No way. They had enough foresight to know that it didn't belong as a bullshit undercard WrestleMania match. So I give credit to WWE and Triple H for knowing that.
And look, the whole show version on YouTube was at 2 million views.
Jeez Louise.
The whole show. Now, WWE is stupid now. They got it set up to where there's a commercial like every 5 minutes on that YouTube stream. Literally every 5 minutes. There's about 4 commercial breaks per match.
Yo, this is getting crazy, bro. This is getting
which
crazy.
is-
You know, Clash in Paris was like 48% wrestling or something like that. Something crazy. It was less than 50% wrestling.
Yo, which is crazy.
Machine Gun Matt in the chat. Champ.
And I'm trying to look to see. So, like the actual match itself on the separate video of Grande versus Originals, 322,000. His entrance alone was 335,000. And everybody else's were underneath 100,000. But everything surrounding Grande Americano is popping on YouTube right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't want to jump ahead, but I have a really big question coming up regarding the Undertaker and how much credit he's getting. But before that, I want to ask you this. Last night, he was kept off the TV version of Monday Night Raw. He was shown during an ad break version of the telecast, coming out, and the fans greeted him. There are reports it was the loudest pop of the night. I have yet to find any clear-cut footage of it from like WWE side. But fans are saying it was the loudest pop of the night. Fans are saying that he was the most over. Like, it was comparable to Roman Reigns. Do you think it's a failure? El Grande Americano. He did come out last night on Raw. Everybody was saying this is bullshit. Well, he didn't come out on TV, right? They let him come out during an ad break where basically he did the wave to everybody, and it was massively over. Again, according to people that were inside the building. So I want to ask you, is it a mistake not capitalizing immediately on that Monday, or do they have some room to work? Maybe not next week, maybe the week before. What do you think?
There are opportunities coming up for him to do that. I think that the reason why they did it on a commercial break is because they wanted to see if the appeal crossed over to the traditional WWE universe.
You don't think that's scared booking? You don't think that's bitch promoting?
That is business.
I know it's business, Abe. I know it's
business, bro.
It is business. I know, but look, all I know. Listen,
because this is what you don't want, and I apologize for interrupting. This is what you don't want. You don't want to run him out there and he gets a mid pop, and then it's like
very, very true. Okay, you're right. That is a fair point. And you know what? I'll also go out on the limb and say that, for the first like 15 years I consumed combat sports, it was always like, oh, he's a duck, or oh, they're scared, right? Obviously, it's so stupid, right? And then I would always argue, oh, the fighters need to take their own control of their fight. But then look at a guy like Ryan Garcia, who did exactly that. He went against Oscar's advice. He went against his own matchmaking advice, fought Tank at the weight class. I'm not saying that's the reason he lost, but it certainly does provide a sample of what he looked like then at that weight class versus what he's looked like since. Well, I mean, discounting the Rolly. So I agree. You're right. There are some times when the business end that doesn't give us the immediate payoff is better because it protects the long-term interest of that character. So
yeah, and think about this. Look, there's an opportunity to really capitalize it if they include him at Fanatics Fest in New York. If he's that over, Fanatics Fest is in July, I believe. They'll have him there, and that could be a moment in its own, right? But you can't get too ahead of yourself, and you have to understand what it is. Now they did, announce that 2-night, 2 separate venue AAA event in September, which is going to be crazy.
Huge.
But like I told you yesterday, I think that, or Saturday, I think that the only way to make El Grande Americano even bigger is to start that storyline with Dominic Mysterio and really get that popping, because
fully agree.
Dominic has already invested into the heelness inside AAA, and they hate him for it. This is the chance now. You build up. You can make. I'm leaping here though. You can make Dom versus El Grande Americano your Stone Cold versus Rock. You can make it that.
Abe,
So
that sounds
it's a leap.
ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds
leap.
borderline ridiculous.
It's a leap. But
Austin Rock, the problem there is that their careers kind of worked in a way that they helped each other, right? Like there was a moment where Stone Cold was super over and he had all the eyes on him, right? The bright spotlight on him and Vince. That gave The Rock the opportunity to go out there and do some things that were more creative, right? Go out on that ledge because you didn't have to be that guy. Then Stone Cold, the whole ball, taking it home, all that stuff. And it led to this moment. I can't say that, like,
Dom is not in that position.
Dom was in that position last year.
He is in that
WWE
position.
did not capitalize on it 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
He's in that position now.
Is he though? Because all I know is that nobody gave a shit about that Finn Balor thing, but it speaks to your point because Finn Balor now, as of yesterday, is sent to SmackDown. So I think you're right. I think you have your finger on the pulse, and I believe that that is what they are doing, whether that's what they were going to do or whether they're doing it now because they see the real business, the real data that suggests that this could be bigger than anything WWE could even do right
next year.
Next year. Okay. Should not the Triple Mania show, though, get something Mania worthy?
Yeah.
Is it right to fight the AAA mega title in the biggest match that everyone's been waiting for in AAA or that anybody's ever anticipated in AAA history and have it on a WWE show in Saudi or a WWE show in the middle of America, like anywhere but Mexico? Is that a problem?
No, I mean, it's split, isn't it? It's two places. They're gonna have it in Mexico.
Two places. But I'm saying you want to have this match at Mania, right? WrestleMania 43. No, I'm sorry. At Triple Mania, you were saying.
Yeah. Somewhere
for next year, though?
For next year, though. Like
okay.
Long-term building.
And do you think that I don't want it to sound rude at all. Do you think that there's a chance, because me and Matt had a conversation similar to this. Do you think that you're suggesting that because we've been conditioned in the Triple H era to long play everything and long story and stretch everything out? Or do you think that it's so big it deserves that amount of time?
I think it deserves that amount of time. I don't want to see this match rushed like maybe some of the ones that we've seen in AEW where Swerve Strickland was rushed to, I don't want to see that.
Argue Darby was.
Yeah. I don't want to see that. I want to see it built up the right way. And I'm gonna tell you something also. Like, don't be surprised if WWE piggybacks off of this huge momentum that they on with the Grande Americano to get that AAA media rights deal with a network or a streaming platform. Whether that be ESPN, whether that be, whoever, USA, whatever.
That's a very, very fair point. Listen, all I know is that what I see the WWE doing, right, from the PBR level, right, because I grew up in Texas. I am a fan of bull riding, and I was a card carrying member of the FFA back in high school. I did welding. I didn't raise animals. Not that raising animals is, I would rather have learned to raise animals. But I want to ask you this point before we get back to the actual card, because I feel like it's a very important question. The machine that is the WWE seems to be adamantly trying to get over the idea that The Undertaker is the difference of what we're seeing right now in AAA. They're giving him a lot of credit as it relates to booking. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that that's overblown. I'm asking you, do you think that Undertaker getting as much credit as he seems to be getting is fair or reflective of what we're actually getting and why it's been so quality?
Yeah, listen, without really knowing the internal circle there, you kind of have to give him the credit, because since he has come aboard, the AAA has just gone up, up, and up, right? The storylines, the views, the just everything has gone up, and so you kind of have to give him the credit. Now, I will say this, and I'm gonna speak out in front here. Originally, when they came out with El Grande Americano, I felt like, me personally, I felt like there was like a little bit of mockery happening, right? Initially, um, I think that once the crowd started really accepting him, and once El Grande Americano started speaking Spanish and doing promos in Spanish, and he started making that connection with the crowd, they almost kind of like stumbled onto something without them even knowing that it would be something. And that stumbling turned into Saturday night. And now they're, reaping the rewards from that. But I don't think that that was their initial plan. I don't think that anybody could have anticipated it getting as over as it did.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, kind of like a bow to put on the mask match. I know, it was hilarious. Matt said he doesn't believe it because Michelle McCool isn't the mega champion. He said, I don't think you wait. I think you put it on him now, referring to El Grande Americano Ludwig version.
Cody Rhodes Chase, bro. That's what you got to treat it as.
Yeah, that's been a successful remedy. However, I do also believe that now's the time to strike with irons that are hot as hot, right? I think the Obafemi, which we'll get to in a little bit, 50-50 booking was problematic, but ultimately, when you're going to tell a story that works, it doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, it does matter, but anything, because I absolutely agree with you, right? I had a problem writing and covering this storyline initially because I was to cover the show and not integrate any of my moral or beliefs in them. So I did my best, and I think I did a good job of tampering down how I initially felt about this. But then once I started watching, right, there was this level of disrespect, you're right, initially. But if you watch full circle, it all played out well. Chad Gable said, I today was defeated by the Mexican spirit. That's it. That's the story there. A guy tried to become a troll version of a luchador, and in the end learned how to use the art and beauty of lucha to not just rise the bar in your performance, no, but to tell a full and encompassing story for which every single character in that match is elevated. Everybody loves Pimpelina now. Everybody's talking about her, right? Dude, nobody even knew who the ring announcers were at AAA. And now everybody's on the side of shoot, I was going to call her Jessica. Shoot, I forgot her name. But you know what I'm talking about, right? The Ludwig and the Americano Mask v Mask set, I think, a new standard for what we can expect as fans. You know what I mean? And right now, I feel like the WWE's main roster is failing at that. Jacob Fatu is my prime example. Abe, if you have any last words on AAA, go for it. But I want to know what you thought about Jacob Fatu at Raw last night.
Yeah, I just want to say that, AAA was fire. They've got their second part this weekend coming up, right? The second Noches de Grandes is, I think, Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, and just look for Las Toxicas to rule the show.
Oh, by the way, shout out to the War Raiders too. So many people,
they did their thing.
About them. They did a good job.
Let me tell you something about that real quick, though. The War Raiders have gotten like the second run in AAA that is unexplainable. Somehow, some way, they are much more appreciated there than they are at the WWE.
I think their act is has more allowances there, right? They're still the best version. The best part of the War Raiders is still the tag work that they did in the indies, right? And they're never really able to or allowed to fully expand on that from within the WWE. They never were allowed to combine the style of WWE TV, which everyone has to learn when they get into the company, with that unique thing that they did, right? Like the Street Profits were able to integrate. Penta, Ray, they've been able to integrate. It feels like the War Raiders hadn't been able to, and I don't think that's a fault of theirs. I think that the limitations of WWE TV, often take away from the guys that are just badasses like that. You know what I mean? But very good point, though. Very good.
Hence why Ray Phoenix looked, worlds apart from the Ray Phoenix we see on SmackDown.
That we've been seeing on SmackDown. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just a situation where Penta's made for everything and Ray is meant for some things. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe, right? But moving on to Raw, Jacob Fatu, who lost at Clash in Paris on Sunday to Roman Reigns, in a pretty clean match, right? No real craziness, nothing. The end of Clash in Paris had Jacob Fatu staring at Solo, and Solo in the crowd staring back with admiration in his eyes a little bit. It was like, I long for you and the time we had together type ish. And so then Michael Cole says, we're going to get the acknowledgement tomorrow night on Raw, right? Perfect for WWE to get us all to watch that next day. They clipped his balls live on Monday night in Italy. One of the most over badass characters who legit went to jail, who legit beat people's asses, got on his knees and praised. He didn't just do this, right? He could have just did this and that would have been it. No, he went all in as Roman's, I don't want to call him bitch, but because I would never say that to Jacob. I just wanted to understand, this is not me, Jacob. This is the internet saying this stuff. I respect you very much. I know you're still a badass, but you didn't look very much on WWE TV. Hey, what's going on here?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it. It's almost like you just erased all of the work you did to build up Jacob with that one move. Did not like it at all. Even if he comes back and, kind of defies him or whatever, and that you killed all the momentum that he had, man. And I'm just like, oh, bro, like, nah. And then they had him in the back of Jey Uso and Jimmy. Like, there was like 3 layers of them standing. It was Roman in the front. The second layer was the Uso.
Stop, bro. Bro, here's the thing. I caught that. It didn't register. So this is what I'm saying. The optics of that were so powerful that while I didn't actually notice that theme or that element on TV, it's subconsciously imprinted in my brain. So you pointing it out, it makes me realize how far they went to make the narrative Jacob Fatu is, what do they call them? The bag boy or whatever, what CM Punk was saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't like it. And if this is heading towards another Civil War with the MFTs,
no go, right? Now, what if I said that The Rock was the end of this rainbow?
That's the only thing that can salvage this thing, to be honest with you.
Recent reports, and this is please be taken with a grain of salt. Matt, shout out to Machine Gun Matt, who put us onto this. Now, this is somebody, self-made PW, who has gotten things right in the past. I don't know him. He has no face on the internet, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But reportedly, they are considering Obafemi for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 43 as a backup plan if The Rock is unavailable. And I'll be honest, I haven't wanted to bring this up, Abe, but I've been seeing more Rock chatter, and it's not based on the usual narratives. There is a promotional and professional reason that The Rock would want to be involved in WrestleMania this year. Not only that, it's a much tougher sale to have people tune into Saudi at a different time than they've been programmed to watch WrestleMania. Who are you going to get to draw? Well, you could, of course, put on badass matches, but you're supposed to do that. So that's not anything to get the casuals to watch at a 12 o'clock show. The Rock, however, is something that you could get. You notice the narratives. I put them in. By the way, you can go to fightsatw.com to check out all of the best combat sports material and content today. I honestly, you can put me on a lie detector test, I believe that fightsatw.com has pound for pound one of the greatest staffs in combat sports right now, and it's where you can go and get caught up weekly with WWE TV, and not just that, TNA TV, AEW, cover it all there at fightsatw.com. So make sure you go, and if you did read my recap last night, you would have caught that line about being two ends of the table, right? Because Roman was the head, and he's been saying, I'm the head. And last night we heard him say, I've learned there are two heads of the table, right? Two ends of the table, saying that means it's capable of being two heads. Abe, did you catch that? And what do you think would be the benefit, if any, of sacrificing Solo, Talatonga, Jacob Fatu, Jimmy, Jay, all in line to create this narrative for The Rock Roman? Does that work?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I found it interesting that he was trying to get Jay to focus on beating Cody Rhodes and then being the champion. And I wonder if that were to lead to a Jay Roman for the Undisputed Championship, and if
At
people would
SummerSlam?
no, at like Mania,
At Mania.
or at Rumble, I don't know.
Right.
Would that be something that people would be interested in? I don't know, because he said, remember, he was like, "Yo, go
Go
do
get
your
Cody.
thing, go get yours and this
Go
and that."
get Cody's belt. Yep, that's what
You
he
never
said. He
had
ordered
that
him
and
to
all
go get
that.
it.
Yeah, you never had that, and maybe he does get it, and then maybe he goes up to Roman and is like, "Well, now we're in equal now. You got one, I got one. We're equal now. Let's settle this." Now, that can happen that way. Or if they're trying to incorporate The Rock, it could be a situation where The Rock comes in as maybe a face. And Roman is like, well, you never did all of this for your own family while you were here. You never put, Jay or Jay in a position to be world champion. You never did this and that, and then kind of play it that way, and then almost have a, Hogan Rock type of match being Rock Roman for next WrestleMania. So I guess you can go that way, but I don't see them doing any like long-term booking for Rock. It's going to be a short boom, boom, boom. So whatever's going to happen, it probably wouldn't happen until Rumble, like January.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this because I didn't think of any of that, what you just said. As you're explaining it to me, I am seeing it now. Okay. WrestleMania is too long. Abe, I honestly feel to a degree we've been programmed to expect things so far in advance, right? And I think you're smart because you recognize the data points. So it's more likely that it happens under your timeline. But stay with me for a second. Obafemi won, and I want to talk about that match. Obafemi won the qualifier last night, or I guess won the right to go to the semifinals. I always feel like you should have to qualify for King of the Ring, but whatever. So he gets to the semifinals in a foursome, which I also don't like fatal four ways as qualifiers. But Oba's in, and it was a monstrous run. It was one of the best matches I think we've had on Raw all year from him, and it was booked perfectly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's not winning the King of the Ring. And now I know it because of what you just said, because Brock Lesnar is going to cost Obafemi his shot, and it's going to be Jey Uso who wins. So then Brock Lesnar, Obafemi run it back at SummerSlam. Jey Uso says no. And all the times we wanted him to turn like a heel, stabbing his cousin in the back, taking some sort of liberty, you know, with their family and the truth and things like that, and saying right to his face, I choose you, Roman. I'm fighting you. That's my belt. I don't want Cody's belt. That's my belt. I never should have lost it. I never got my shot at it. That's mine, and I'm going to beat you for it. I don't know if it's the match that people want, but I think it's a narrative that they can build into becoming the match they want. But yeah, what are your thoughts? And before we move on,
Nah, that would be ill. You know what would be another ill thing? If Jay wins Money in the Bank,
that's
Roman
in
versus
September, by the way.
Roman versus Rock happens just as the Rock bottoms Roman. Jay Uso cashes in the briefcase and covers Roman, and he becomes the new champion.
Love it. Love it. Book it. Love it. Real quick, I want to
Or
respond.
after you know Roman beats Rock or Rock beats Roman and they're
No, it
exhausted.
can work either. Yeah,
Jay
exactly.
comes running in, cashes in,
Here's the thing.
splash over.
Here's what your booking is doing that others fail to do sometimes. You're creating a narrative that leads to a moment, right? See, WWE likes to create moments that lead into narratives, right? So they brought the El Grande Americano character in with Chad Gable, thinking they were going to get a pop of a moment. It turned into something bigger, right? So all I'm saying is that you can do that, and it leads to a bunch of different ways you can take it. Like, you're not pigeonholed into doing that one way. My biggest fear is that they're pigeonholing themselves into what we all expect right now, right? Which is going to be a MFT versus Bloodline 3.0 at Survivor Series War Games, and I would absolutely hate it. I mean, like, not hate, but like no interest. Like, literally zero interest. It's not dumb because it's a smart, you know, storyline in terms of using the family's narrative, but it's the same thing over and over, right? Like I didn't hate the new trilogy of Star Wars. I just found it super redundant. I just found it uninspiring. And it also, by the way, undid everything that you did in Star Wars. See, this is the problem that the WWE doesn't understand. There is continuity whether they want it to be there or not. So when you do things with Roman and Jay and Jacob and Solo and have this whole thing, when you do it again, that's all we see, right? That's all we see. Like Robert Downey Jr. is about to play Doomsday, right? He's about to play. If he does a good enough job, guess what that's going to do? It's going to undo a lot of what he did for Iron Man. And if they mess with Avengers to make Doomsday work because they've shit all over the multiverse series, then it undoes the Infinity War saga. See, all these things, you can't just retcon things into existence, no matter how brilliant you think they are. Yeah, my bad. I'm popping off a little bit too much.
No, and speaking of no pop, what's up with Cody Rhodes?
Oh my God, dude. Oh my gosh. Running the same storyline over and over. And
bro, they about to, that heel turn is gonna come sooner than later, bro. It has to.
Yeah. It has to. But listen, I want to talk about Oba. I want to real quick respond to this. Alex said, I think what Jacob did was relatable. I had that one cousin that I had to set straight once. While he didn't get on one knee, he really learned his role around me and the family. Love that you said that. Love that you said that. So then that means that was a little cousin, right? That was trying to little bro you or little bro somebody else, and you had a little bro, right? But that's not the narrative we saw. What we saw was, I don't want to call Roman a rich kid. That's obviously not. But in this storyline, it was Roman the rich kid versus Jacob the felon, the guy who had it hard, right? The guy who struggled. At the end of the day, they have two separate narratives, and you can absolutely say that one was on the golden ticket platter, who was paved the way by Vince McMahon, and the other had to work in MLW for like a half a decade before they even gave him a shot in WWE. Okay. He had done brilliant work with MJF, all these people, and he was the last of them to get there. So ultimately, that storyline worked. And I don't see how Jacob in his role in the family up until this point submits to Roman. Not like that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got enough honor for his family. Maybe his one of the grand fathers or uncles or whatever said, you got to do it, right? I know you don't want to do it, but you got to do it. And so he reluctantly throws the one up, and he reluctantly goes with the flow until he doesn't. But this idea that he's like, Roman, you're my daddy. Like, what? Why are we going that far with it? No, don't do that. Keep him a man of his word, but don't make him look like a bitch. Like, oh man, I don't know. I'm mad. Roman can say, we all know you're not real blood. You created the only kid in the bloodline that never learned how to work. Oh, Jesus Christ. That would be so far. Yo, by the way, Abe, my community hates Zilla FATU. I thought it was Jacob. I thought it was Mex. I thought Mex was the only one. Bro, I don't know what it is. This entire, other than me, Matt, I think Alex rocks with them. They all hate Zilla FATU for some reason. I have no idea why. It's crazy. They do not want to see him in WWE at all. But I want to talk about Oba.
They need to.
Go ahead,
I was gonna say they need to holler at Danny Limelight then and get him the Zilla Sucks shirts.
That's exactly what they need. Hit up Danny Limelight. Hit that store up. Merch on Protees. Oh, by the way. Oh, yeah, my bad. Never mind. We'll talk about that later. So Obafemi loses to Brock Lesnar at Clash in Paris, and the 50-50 booking that we all feared came true. However, last night on Monday Night Raw, actually, let me pull up the bracket. Last night on Monday Night Raw, he won his qualifier to enter to the semifinals of the Men's King of the Ring, the winner for which will earn a title shot at SummerSlam. I thought they said for their brand, but then Roman made it seem like he could just choose. So I don't know, whatever. One of the many retcons that WWE is working with these days. What did you think of the Brock Lesnar thing? Does it work for you? Does it not work for you? Does there have to be a trilogy? What's going on here?
Let me tell you, Oba's over as fuck, man. Jesus. And you know what's crazy? Speaking of Danny, when he told me like last year, he was like, yo, I think Oba is gonna be a big star in WWE. I was like, nah, I couldn't see it because of it just didn't feel like he was gonna be that guy. But credit to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, with the old school wrestling mind that he has, putting him with Obafemi was the best thing that happened to Obafemi. Obafemi is over because of the work that Brock has done. Let's not get that part fucked up. It's not all Oba.
Yo,
even though Oba's a massive talent,
I fucking hate that you're right. I hate it.
But you needed Brock to be what he's been in order for it to work. And what they did, that's a Vince McMahon special. Right from his playbook. And if anybody says any different,
you're not wrong.
They just don't know.
You're not wrong at all. Hey, no. Let me tell you right now. I assume and have assumed for a while that there is an actual playbook at WWE headquarters, the Vince playbook, right? He had to leave it behind. I'm sure that's in there.
Well, Jim Ross, according to Jim Ross, Vince McMahon is still part of it.
Matt. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, right. Good old Jim. Yeah, so at the end of the day, 50-50 booking bothers me for a lot of reasons, right? And the promotional nature of it is, to me, scared. You're scared. You don't believe in your guy. And now I don't think that happens in boxing or MMA at the level that I once did as a kid, right? Or certainly not at the level that social media seems to believe it exists. But I actually think this is a thing in wrestling. I think that the way that people assume that Bob Arum was protecting Crawford from PBC fighters or Shakur from anyone in the top 5 or top 10, whatever, the way that people thought that, and they're mostly wrong, categorically speaking, I think we're right in assuming that Triple H isn't sure if Oba will swim yet. Triple H isn't sure that Penta could carry a torch internationally. He isn't sure Ricky Saints is anything more than, an NXT AEW type of guy. I don't think he knows any of these things. I think what he knows is Cody's the face of the company now. He knows Roman is over and will be over for as long as over exists, right? He is in Hulk Hogan, well, maybe not Hulk Hogan, but in John Cena territory, right? CM Punk territory. He's that kind of guy. They know that. They don't know anything else. They don't know that Jacob will be responded to as a top face or a top heel. So what they do is they put them out there on the ledge, right? They show us the potential of what they can do, maybe even give us a little sample of what it looks like on a large scale, and then they pull back, right? And they pull back. And they do these things for so long, but the thing they do very quickly is pull back, right? Oba won and did all of this at WrestleMania, and like 3 weeks after Oba did his whole challenge thing, Brock Lesnar comes back, right? I have a problem with this. I do. That said, they understand the Oba character right now. They may not believe in him as much as I think they should. They may not understand the fans well enough to know how over he is, but they understand the character. They understand the athlete. They understand what he's capable of. And maybe they even understand the limitations well enough to have hid him from us from now, because I don't see him. This guy works. He works on every level, and literally everyone loves him. You know how difficult it is in this polarized world that we live in of America? It is to have anyone agree that anything is over, or that anyone think that doesn't happen anymore. There aren't movies where everybody thinks they're great. No, there are huge portions of people that hate it for whatever reason, right? Music, same thing. Name a popular rapper. I'll wait. They don't exist. You either are a Drake guy or you're a Kendrick guy. You're either a Jay-Z guy or you're a fucking Lil Pump guy. At the end of the day, again, I'm going to say it like this. Oba is over, and Oba deserves a chance to shine. My biggest fear is in the same path we had with Damian Priest, and the same path we've had with many other names that I'm not going to even think about right now. The momentum will die, and it'll die because they are unwilling to push him off that ledge to see if he can fly.
Yeah, listen. I think that they feel comfortable being able to do those pullbacks and everything else because they have Cody, Roman, Rhea selling merch, doing all these things that keeps the ship going. Now they got Dan Housen that's doing even more without even wrestling. So they're not in a hurry to do anything else. The problem that you're going to run in with Oba is this. Who do you put him in with after Brock? The only one that makes sense visually would be Roman Reigns. But is Roman Reigns booked up until next year? Through next year?
No,
you know those. I mean,
you mean off WWE? Oh yeah. We
well,
don't know, right? We don't know if he's got movies.
Well, just in general, right?
Oh,
just in general, like this. It sounds like they're going into another bloodline type of storyline for the next 6 to 12 months. Where does that leave Oba Femi?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, you got a tough decision because you have to be able to put them against somebody that visually makes sense.
Matt says he knows. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. You know, like I didn't want what happened to happen actually. Him start wrestling guys like Otis and Los Garzas. Like at the end of the day, it happened with a narrative, so it made it great. You get what I'm saying? So there's a difference between Oba beat Brock Lesnar after WrestleMania, and his next match on Monday Night Raw is against Otis with no storyline, just send him out there squash. And then that's different from him going out there, even though it's kind of dumb to make it an open challenge. Like, okay, why do we care to beat the new kid? Like, I want a title. Like, beating Oba doesn't make my shirt sell. But regardless, it was a narrative and it works, right? In fact, I think it worked better than they thought it did. I think they pulled the plug way too fast. I think they could have done another 3 weeks of it before Brock Lesnar came out and did what he did. I mean, you don't have to squash a lot of guys. And that's, again, part of this 50-50 booking problem. The idea that we can't ruin anybody too much. We can't push anybody too much. It's this fine line that they try to walk that they don't understand all goes to this continuity. So Gunther has to do something long enough that I forget he tapped to Jey Uso.
Yeah.
CM Punk has to do something long enough that says he's still a good wrestler, right? Like, because he's had enough performances back to back to back where we can say, oh man, he's not the best in the world anymore. But then he has what he did at Roman Reigns or at WrestleMania with Roman Reigns, and now the narrative's changed. You have anything else to add on this before we move on?
Yeah, I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
I don't disagree with Matt. He said Seth Rollins, or better yet, Drew McIntyre. I wouldn't mind seeing, and I think this is the future of it, Oba versus Braun Breaker. Now, visually, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. Two big athletic guys, cartoon size type of thing, facing off. That makes a lot of sense. And just as a side note, you know who's gonna make magic when it happens? Seth Rollins versus Montez Ford. Book it. That is gonna be a money match right there. That's gonna be that. I know I'm comparing here. This is a little bit out on the limb again. That might very well be the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart type of match.
Wow. That is a very, very big comment. And I love it. I do. It's
I really believe in Montez Ford.
I do too. My problem with Montez Ford has never been with Montez Ford. It's been with the lack of belief I see in WWE in him, right? What he did last night in that Raw main event between Seth Rollins and Breaker elevated the match, maybe even like a half a notch of a letter grade, right? If that match was like a A minus, that spot made it an A. Just that alone. You know what I mean? It was incredible. First of all, he's an amazing athlete. Second of all, he's very good with promos. And the biggest thing about him is that he's part of this power couple with Bianca that they haven't even begun to tap into, narratively speaking, right? Like, of course, they're, man and wife and they're talked about like that on air and stuff. But all we ever get from that is the occasional name drop
And their
from
show
somebody.
and their show on Hulu was really good.
Yes, very much so. I enjoyed that. Like, again, I think that they could be the likable version of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. And I don't mean that in like this era and like the last few eras. Like, I mean, like literally on screen, what we saw from them from the very beginning, right? They were this power couple that influenced the back with like their joined power. I think we could see that version, like a baby face version of that, right? I don't know. Maybe it's just a 3-month run. Maybe it's a narrative that changes their characters. All I know is they haven't even begun to tap into it. So there's that right there.
And let me tell you, I'm slightly biased because Montez Ford is a Marine Corps veteran. So.
Oh, that's right. Heck yeah, dude. Salute him. Salute you. Thank you for your service, of course. And everyone out there, by the way, in the community, we appreciate your service. So real quick, I just want to say this before we move on. I want to ask you about Sol Ruca and her move up from day one to where we are now. They're calling her the botch queen, and they're saying it's the worst NXT call up, creatively speaking, since Cross. A lot of things being hurled her way. I want to know how fair you think they are. I want to make 2 real quick points here. I feel like everything that we've discussed here today leads us to a point that is not a fact, but an undeniable truth. And it's that WWE doesn't care about their week-to-week watcher. And you can tell that's the case because Jacob Fatu, who was reportedly injured at a house show in a match with Solo, and it was reported 48 hours before the show that he might not even be able to wrestle. After it was determined that he could wrestle, and he did wrestle and then lost, we found out that Drew McIntyre, there's a rumor that Drew McIntyre's name was on a very, very, very short list of possibly 2 people that would have taken over for Jacob Fatu. Narratively speaking, 0 sense, right? It's just, Drew's a big name in Scotland and Ireland, and so he's just overseeing. They just connect them all, right? Like if all of Europe is somehow the same thing. It's disrespectful to guys like me, and I don't mean like me personally. I mean like me that watch it week to week. Like that's insulting to me. Like it's got to be Solo, and I get it that it's not an attractive match. I get that it's not going to put butts in seats. ESPN sure as heck not going to be happy about it. But when you leave yourself with this kind of window for no mistakes, like there's nothing else you could pivot to in an era where we've seen injuries decimate storylines and pushes and builds and characters. And I want to make this last point. The injury of FATU may have been severe enough that he or not severe enough that he could have done the match, but severe enough that he shouldn't be actively wrestling as much. So if this narrative of him basically becoming Roman's bitch, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I'm not saying he's a bitch at all. I'm very much know Jacob Fatu could just manhandle me. So not me. I'm saying that's what WWE seems to be doing. Could be based on the fact that he can't really work right now, right? If he's not gonna be able to work for the next 3 months regularly, then yeah, I guess you put him on ice as the, enforcer of this new version of the bloodline. Matt said, I disagree. Mario, I said that spot didn't need to be in the match, especially. Oh, that's right. You did say that. But yeah, I think it was great. It kept it neutral. It kept it basically a clean match. It felt like a pay-per-view match, but it also felt like just a banger of a match, right? It would have made sense because it was tribal combat. Yeah, it definitely. Wait, what would have made sense? Solo or Drew? I think you mean Solo, I hope, and I think you're right. It would have at least made sense. Not sure if Italy would have loved it or ESPN, but I know it would have made sense. So it would have had to be a family member. Exactly. Yes. So that's what he's saying. It should have been Solo. He's hurt, so we make him Jay's bitch and constantly calling him boy. And that leads to a Jay Jacob feud that, it does nothing for me. I mean, nothing for me. But anyway.
Unless Jay beats Cody for the title.
Sure, absolutely.
Now,
honestly, anybody beating Cody for the title does that.
Yeah, now Jacob versus Jay would make a little bit of sense at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Abe, I want to ask you about Sol Ruca. Wait, you have what, 30 minutes left? Or you got to go?
Yeah, about 30.
30. Okay. So listen, hashtag we pushed the wrong Uso. Yo, he loves him some Jimmy. I too agree. Jimmy needs that push. Crazy they send him out there to beef with LA Knight 2 weeks before they remove him from the King of the Ring and have Jey Uso take that spot. That's
at this point they should just cut LA Knight if they're gonna keep on jerking him around.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I agree. Let him do what Cross is doing. Get super over in the Indies and around the world. Come back to WWE. You're worth more now. So, But Sol Ruca, I want to talk to you about it real quick. I don't think it's like a super long conversation or like super controversial, but a lot of people seem down on Sol Ruca. And I get, it hasn't been great, right? We talk about the botches that have happened on that stage with the Soul Snatcher to the point that fans were saying that she needs a new move, a new finisher, that she shouldn't be doing that move unless it's like super rehearsed for a PLE, whatever. The problem is that it's a great move that she does super well. And the reason there's a difference that we're seeing is because at NXT, they had the performance center where they could practice all the time, utilize every aspect of their downtime to just be better. And so the timing that you need for that move comes with working together. So the new roster doesn't have that time, but at the same time, it's not for the casuals to determine if you're had an adequate enough time, right? They see what they see and they like what they like. Abe, has Sol Ruca been a success, a failure, or too early to tell?
Listen, not everybody's ready for the show. Period. Some people come up, they do well. Some people come up, they don't do well. It's part of the business. What they need to do is they need to keep her active, which means dark matches, which means house shows. She needs to be on all of those, just running it back until she's comfortable enough to get back on primetime. Can't hear you, Mario.
My bad, there was mute. Shout out
There
to
you go.
Shoeshine, says salute fellas. Appreciate Shoeshine for tapping in. Yeah, I get that. I do. I feel like Soruka has the ability to be something special in a roster that's felt I think monotony might be the best word to describe it, right? Like, I'm not saying that if you're just blonde and a wrestler that you're all the same. Of course not. Of course not. However, I couldn't pretend like Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan's characters haven't sort of had like these interchangeable moments at times, right? From a narrative point and storytelling point. I can't pretend like Blake Monroe and Tiffany Stratton don't present the same, right? Again, not the same storyline. So if you're like me and you're watching week to week, you can tell the difference, of course, right? If you're a viewer who is just catching NXT on the CW one day or whatever, right? SmackDown on USA, I don't know if you even remember which one is which. And so all I know is that Sol Ruka offers this really interesting blend of like Alita sort of visual vibe, right? With the athleticism of maybe something we've never seen before in the women's roster. I mean, there are some incredible athletes, right? Sasha Banks, Io Sky is incredible. Bianca Belair, obviously. And I think she could be that good. So I just think we need to wait a little bit on that one. Now I want to ask you real quick about the Cody Rhodes thing. As well as interjecting it with the Roman Reigns stuff. So Cody won with Gunther's foot being under the rope. This is a narrative that's been playing out since November of last year. Okay. It's led to Sami Zayn and Rhodes having this weird on again, off again feud program that is just constant as a narrative, but hasn't gone anywhere or done anything. You can't even really say it's turned Sami Zayn heel because he doesn't think he's a heel. Like, whatever. Roman Reigns has been using weapons and getting away with it. To the point where it's now storyline, right? Jacob said it the other day. LA Knight said it. As it relates to Cody Rhodes, what do you think is going on? Do they feel like he's so big he doesn't need like quality story? Do they feel like he can be put on ice while we develop around him to give him guys like Oba maybe and Ricky Saints to affect? What's going on with Cody, dude? You brought it up earlier.
Yeah, I think that they're just keeping him on ice, but not keeping him on ice. Like Cody is the face of the company. People aren't arguing against that. They're just not pushing him as the face of the company right now because they're trying to develop these other guys. Doesn't mean that they won't push him as the face of the company in 6 months or in 3 months. They probably will. It's just right now, it's not the time to be doing that. And they're teasing all these little things because I feel like they're toying with the idea of turning him heel and what that would look like. And if people are ready for that. It's a little different turning somebody heel that is like, you know, a star, but not a superstar. And then versus a guy that is the face of your company. You have to be delicate with that. You got to handle it with a certain level of delicacy. And you have to be sure that it's going to work. Because there's a lot more at stake than just the storyline. You know, there's merch, there's appearances, there's a whole lot of other things that come into play. Ambassador stuff. So you just got to be very, very, very careful with how you do it because Cody is the guy and Cena isn't anymore.
Well said. Now, final wrestling topic of the day. I want to get your point. Matt and I had a debate yesterday, which I've clipped and am posting in the morning. And the topic was Darby Allin's title reign. Was the juice worth the squeeze? Was it worth? Did it have a positive impact on Darby and or AEW as a whole? My argument was that, anything that breaks the monotony of what we've seen, specifically from WWE, but in wrestling as a whole, has a powerful impact. And then on top of that, it's hard to judge the first title reigns of guys that aren't traditional champions, right? Especially when they're coming into their title reign. Like Shawn Michaels' first title reign was atrocious. Bret Hart's was even worse. Even Hulk Hogan, if you go back, a lot of the biggest wrestlers in the world, John Cena, CM Punk, had very underwhelming first title reigns. So I don't know. Matt's argument is that the numbers didn't move, and all you really did was pause out better storylines that could have a better impact for the company and for wrestling fans in September. With the story you were telling with MJF and Will, putting it on ice and having this distraction only takes away from it. Abe, I'm not pigeonholing you to these. I just wanted the cards on the table. What do you believe about Darby Allin's title reign? Was it worth it, or was it just a cheap counter program to WWE WrestleMania?
Well, it felt like Darby Allin's title run was unique to AEW because it felt like they had a defending champion that was taking on high quality opponents every single week while being the champion. And if it may have happened with AEW before, but to me, it felt like something new at that moment. It felt like they were doing this for the first time, that they had a champion that was on defending their title every week on Dynamite leading up to a pay-per-view. I felt like I hadn't seen that before in AEW. And maybe it did happen before, but to me, it felt like it was the first time happening. So it was good that they were doing something different. Their pay-per-view numbers apparently were really good. So I don't know about it affecting the overall numbers. I heard the pay-per-view numbers were good.
So MJF, after he won the title, after that pay-per-view, won it back. The numbers were, I think it was 740. Let me pull them up. There were 740,000, I think is what they did on Dynamite. Darby Allin wins the title that next night, or that next Wednesday. And then after he wins the title, the very next Dynamite, the viewers decreased by, I think it was 200,000. So, that was like a big aspect of it. There are some other, data points that relate to the numbers not being super favorable.
Yeah, I get that, but that could also be attributed to Darby Allin's, being away from AEW for the amount of times that he has been. Could have affected that number because now, they're not used to seeing Darby consistently be on the program. He was gone 6 months or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, MJF he's the biggest name for AEW, period. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there could be arguments for either one of them, but I thought that they pay-per-view did well. I didn't see the Darby Allin's title run as being bad. I thought it was good.
I thought it was great. He said that it didn't help that him become the star that you want the championship reign to have, because he wrestled every single week and the caliber of guys that he faced were that of Speedball Bailey. I love those matches. I thought they were great. I do understand his point, right? If you win the championship, you're in the circle of guys that include Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Moxley, Will Ospreay, Swerve. The names go on, but it's that small, very small, group of people. Samoa Joe. And Darby didn't interact with any of them, right? What he's saying is AEW did not make Darby Allin's title reign seem important. They didn't seem like anybody was dying to face him as the champion, because all he was doing was giving out title matches to mid to lower card guys.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I could also see AEW utilizing Darby Allin being the champion as an opportunity to put some of the lower guys over and putting
Very
them
well said,
and giving them the opportunity to, because those other names that you mentioned, they're going to get the viewers. They already have the fans. But when you put lower guys into those positions, out of those five, one of them might be your next star. So, I would say there's arguments to both sides.
Yeah, no, I agree. So the viewership was actually 710,000. It was a .12 between the 1849 demo. By the way, Abe, this is all Matt. Matt did all of the research, put the logistics together this way. All of this is him. This isn't from the internet. Nobody made this for him. He did this all in Wembley as well. Shout out to him. Oh wait, yeah, this one was his. My bad. And so, you can see it here, right? So MJF wins 710. Then you get to the very next week, a guy in Tashida who's been, one of the most over guys in the company, and it drops to 596. Kevin Knight, right? 590. Speedball on Dynamite did 585. And then Brody King did 585 as well. The Sammy Guevara collision actually did 613, which was pretty impressive if you think about that. But other than that, the numbers point to, yes, not this huge, overwhelming support for a title reign from Darby Allin. What I don't think they do, though, is tell us how much positive impact it can and likely will have. As you said, branching out the title reign. You know what they used to call it, like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You know that game where you're like, oh, Kevin Bacon, and like he's been in the movie with this. Okay, so that's how wrestling kind of works in a way, right? You interact these guys, one's over, one they're trying to get over, and you hope that the rub comes from that, right? And you can see at times that it works, and you can see at times it fails. I think Austin Theory is probably a guy that you could say is having like both sides, right? They've done that where they put him in huge storylines with people. Vince McMahon did almost nothing for his career, probably made him less attractive to fans. And now he's been with the Vision and Paul Heyman, and he seemed pretty cool on Monday. I'm not going to lie, even though he got his ass kicked at the end of the day, since they lost Logan Paul, he's had to step up. So
I was gonna say one thing, Mario. Don't scroll too much to the right because we don't want to see you without a shirt on. All right.
Oh shit! I didn't even realize that. Yo, now I gotta show it, right? No, listen, yo, and you know what's even worse? I am gonna show it now. It's not just me without a shirt. It's me with a kitten that we found outside. I was sending it to my wife so she could see how small it was. We found him outside. He had a hurt paw, and so he's actually with us. He's asleep in the other room. Damn it. Thank you, Abe, for telling me in the most hysterical way. And Mech said, Jesus Christ, Mario nearly leaked the sex tape online. Yeah, funny, Mech. Super funny, dude. Hilarious. Actually, that is funny. He said, Darby at this current time isn't big enough to give the rub, in my opinion. Okay, but what did the title and MJF do for, like, what was the rub for him, right? I think that's what we won't find out for a while. But Mario, I love you like family, but you are a strange person. Thank you. That's real nice. Yeah, that sounds real loving, Mix. No, I'm just kidding. But listen, that is mostly your time. I want to see if we can get one last boxing topic in from you real quick.
Yeah.
We had a fight this weekend. Shock.
Mm-hmm.
I think had a good performance. It was a quality fight. I always thought him and Ford was a 60-40 fight. I did. There was parts of me that wanted to call it 50-50. But I think we had just seen Shock develop so much over the last 5-6 years that it was hard for me to not give him the slight edge. That said, it was a close fight. I thought it was a good fight, quality performance. At the end of the fight, Shakur Stevenson and both him and Shock were popping off at each other to the point that Shakur made a beeline to, the ring, and they had a very viral moment. They were screaming at each other, yelling at each other. One of my guests for later in the evening, Wade Plemons, said, this is a fight that we need. And a lot of other people in boxing seem to agree. I don't. I feel like this is a fight that we know who would win. I feel like while Shock has done a lot to show how much better he is today, and there are real developments that I'm working on right now, showing between fights, making a video and reels so you can see just how good Shaq has gotten. There's no question in that. But where did he start versus where Shakur is from 5-6 years ago? And where did he start? There's levels to this game, right? And the level that Shakur might be on is a rare level, right? We don't see it often. The level that Shaq is on is nothing to question. It's nothing to be down about. He's one of the best in his divisions. That's not the same thing. Those aren't the same levels. What do you think, Abe? What did the fight, Shaq's performance on Saturday night, do for him? What did you think about the fight? And is the fight with Shakur something that we, quote, need to see?
So I think that with Shaq, the issue with him in the past was that he couldn't finish strong, and he would kind of like, his punch output would get less and late in the fights and stuff. What I saw Saturday night was a guy that learned from his mistakes, learned that from the Conceição fight that he can't do that late in the fight, especially when he is not the guy that the promotion is behind at that moment, right? Because he was on a matchroom card. And so Ray Ford was his boys with Shakur Stevenson. So like there was a lot of things stacked up against him. So for him, he made that adjustment of, I need to finish like a champ. I need to finish strong. And he did that. If you look at his last couple of fights, he may not have finished the way he did, but he finished strong on Saturday. And he showed that, listen, even though Ray Ford came in prepared, he came in ready, he was fast. But Shaq was able to make the appropriate adjustments and then finish strong down the road. That's what makes a champion right there. And I think that Saturday was probably his best performance of his career so far, to be quite honest. As far as Shakur Stevenson, he's been asking for that fight for a while. Behind the scenes, he's been asking for that fight for a while. He thought that he was going to be able to get it when he got that quote unquote interim title at 135.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But the minute that there was going to be a conversation to maybe make Shakur like the man, make him the mandatory, whatever, then that's when Shakur went up to 140, and then they took away the interim title from Shaq, and he went back down to 130. I guess they asked him to make a decision, and it just made more sense for him to go down to 130, where he was the full champion. I don't think it's a fight that needs to happen, but I think it's a fight that Shaq would like for it to happen, because there's a lot of like behind the scenes kind of personal stuff mixed in there.
Is it the kind of stuff that can make it more sellable to the casual fan?
I think so. I just think, though, stylistically, it won't be an entertaining fight. That's the only problem that I have with that, because Shakur is a little too slick, and not in a bad way. I'm just saying, of course not. He is just a little too slick. And in those moments where Shaq isn't throwing any punches, there could be a lot of feinting, a lot of figuring it out, a lot of movement, and not that much punches being thrown. Are they going to fight next? Probably not. I'm going to tell you that right now. For me, like, it makes more sense for Shaq to fight Navarrete, only because that would be a unification, and it would also be for the Ring Magazine title. And, oh, by the way, both would be under the Top Rank umbrella, and it would be a Top Rank show.
And that's the thing, is you complete that, it raises the profile of the winner. So if Shaq is the winner of that, it gives more credence to the idea that these guys are on the same level. Look, there's no fight that could happen outside of the top two that Shaq could prove that he's a legitimate threat to Shakur, right? But you can make a more sellable fight. You can make it more believable. You can give a percentage that closer resembles 50-50 as opposed to what it really is. I don't know, probably less than 80-20 right now. But
Now,
no,
I was gonna say what a better path for Shock would be the Navarrete fight and then go into a super one with Lomachenko. That makes sense to me because then
yeah,
he beats Lomachenko and then he's like a 3-belt champion with the ring. Now a fight with Stevenson, if Stevenson is still at 140, or a catch weight at 138 or something, would make sense.
agreed. Very well said. Listen, Abe, thank you so much, dude, for taking the time out of your week to give us an hour and a half, dude, almost 2 hours, really. Appreciate it so much, dude. Great spot today. You want to give out your socials real quick?
Yeah, at AbeG718 on X, where you can find me breaking some stuff, just like I broke the news on David Benavidez being the mandatory for the cruiserweight title,
Champ,
and all that. At AbeG718 on Insta, AbeG Boxing on YouTube. I've got a bunch of video interviews up there. FightsATW.com is the website. And yeah, man, let's see what it is. I think I'm gonna try to talk to Shock this week as well, just to kind of see what he's talking about and just kind of go from there. So kind of look out for that. And yeah, let's see what it is.
Can't wait for that content. And yes, definitely shout out to you for the scoop on the cruiserweight mandatory.
Vex is funny, man. He said, "Fuck,
I know,
Shock. Let's
dude.
talk
I was
about
like,
Holly
hold
Rob
on.
Holly." I didn't even watch the Holly fight.
I literally just watched it. Watched it yesterday. So yeah. But appreciate it, Abe, man.
All right.
I'll hit you up. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, man.
All right. That was Abe Gonzalez, FightsATW.com. You should go there like literally yesterday and bookmark it and make it your one-stop shop for all of your combat sports needs. I was going to say something that sounded weird in my head. But yeah, let's talk about, listen, I want to talk real quick about my my take on this whole Shock and Shakur fight before we get into the Holly Holm stuff. Let me just finish this post. Is a shocking fight boxing needs? All right. So look, this is what I want to say. All right. I don't want to project my feelings onto others. That's the last thing I'd ever want to do. Okay. I'll say this though. I'm starting to recognize a narrative playing out against Shakur that is very similar to the Floyd Mayweather Jr. narrative of the past, right? And I feel like I have the ability to speak on this because I once was somebody who this is hard to talk about, guys. All right. My medical issues are my medical issues. And I don't share them with y'all for any other reason that you're my community and I trust you. So when I share my health issues, specifically my mental health issues, I know that you're a community that's going to support me. But I once was diagnosed and suffered from Mayweather derangement syndrome. That's right. Your boy had it. Your boy had the MDS and oh boy, it was bad. It was bad. I itched everywhere. No, I'm just kidding. There was no itching. No, seriously though, there was once upon a time where I refused to give Floyd the praise that he very much earned, right? And I would say things like he is a scared fighter. He is I would say things like he is like he runs. He's a runner, right? Afraid to engage, things like this. And, I never said these things because it was like a situation where like, oh man, I can break it down in terms of like stats and things like that. And I can rock out mix. I could rock out like with data points that show this is what the average welterweight champion throws versus Floyd. Like none of that. This was all, I'm mad that I picked Oscar De La Hoya Floyd wrong. I'm mad that I picked I don't know who else, Floyd and whoever else I thought would beat him at whatever various times in his career. There was also a part of me that refused to understand the aspect of boxing that is very much matchmaking, right? Like I'm not going to say Floyd doesn't deserve credit in beating Mosley or Cotto or any of those guys. But in all honesty, there is a noticeable degree of quality in the fighter that he fought at the moment in some of the moments he fought him, right? And you could say that that's like taking advantage, but it's been the way it's always been. The A side's always demanded weight stipulations or money stipulations or fight location stipulations or whatever the fuck they can squeeze out of the A side. We talked about Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis earlier, right? And we talked about how that went very much against the tradition of boxing because the tradition of boxing stipulates that the fighter typically listens to his promoter and matchmaker. And in that case of Ryan Garcia Tank, everybody in his team, on his fight team, right? Not his, lawyers and managers and father, but everybody else that has been through the game told him, don't do this. Don't do this with this weight stipulation. It's not going to work out for you. And I guess, you could argue two different ways, right? You could say that the weight stipulation caused him to lose or put him at a detriment that made it an unfair fight. That's just speculation, right? We can't ever know that that's the case. What we can say, though, is that the narrative allows an out for Ryan Garcia. There is a potential for a rematch one day between those two. And partly it exists because Ryan Garcia has that out, that weight clause out, right? I don't buy much into it, but I say it would be interesting to see Tank have to move up to like 147 or a catch weight or something and then fight a Ryan Garcia who's like consistently in the gym and fighting consistently. That would be a very, very good fight. And so I look at all that and I say to myself that the Shakur runs narrative is just basically fans that picked wrong or guys that wanted Tio to win or guys that wanted or that are Haney fans or you know what I mean? Like there's no like to say that he runs is to disqualify the parameters of boxing as a whole, right? Like he's not cheating. It's just that your fighter doesn't do it as well as him, right? Or at least not any fighter that he's fought thus far. So again, I look at Shakur and I look at Shak and I say, that's not the fight. That's not the fight. Could it be sellable? Sure. Will there be some interesting press conferences? Absolutely. You're going to need some additional security at the weigh-in for the face-off. That'd be smart, As Abe said, there are background narratives, unsubstantiated, most of them, that place Shakur and Shak in a sort of like not rivalry, because, you know, for it to be a rivalry, that person has to like match your level, right? Like Marquez Pacquiao, that was a rivalry, right? Shock's not on the level of Shakur for it to be a rivalry. But there's enough bad blood for it to be a blood feud. And blood feuds are always sellable, you know? I think Abe's point, though, is the biggest reason why you don't do the fight. Because there's no narrative that you could have that suggests it's a 50-50 fight or that Shock actually has a chance to win that fight. In fact, we could watch the last 3 fights of each guy and I could show you, you know, more or less what to expect from this fight. And this isn't like, I don't have all the answers. Like, you know, a lot of this stuff that I've seen has been shown to me by, you know, content creators and other podcasters, my community, who's, you know, guys like Mex who've been working in the business for a decade, guys like Matt who've, you know, been connected to combat sports for a while now, and it's his own content creator. So like, you know, I have a wide array of opinions that come through, you know what I mean? And all I know is that the fans are going to expect not a war, but a fun fight, exciting. And if you promote this fight, it happens next, then, and it doesn't deliver, could you argue that it does more harm to Shakur's short-term star power and drawing power to come out with a dud, right? And you look at a guy like Jake Paul, right? Nobody thinks Jake Paul is like a top boxer, right? In professional terms. But he is a cash cow. He was or is a cash cow. He exists as one of the most profitable fighters in the sport from a drawing standpoint, right? Okay, so if that's the issue, or that's the thing that, you know, that defines a boxer, then what we saw against Mike Tyson hurt his star power and his narrative so much so that he was forced to engage with a top fighter. The Tank narrative wasn't what he was looking for. Nobody bought into it. And you know who else didn't buy into it? Tank. At the press conference, you know, he's calling Paul out. He's calling Jake out on his WWE style of promoting fights, right? He's like, "Oh, you really wrote this shit." Like he watched the interview with Floyd and Tank, that fucking awkward as shit one, where you could tell Tank doesn't like him. And he went off of those words, right? He started trying to like flip stuff. And that's smart. You know, you could be smart and do that. I don't know if any of them were like super clever or anything, but I will say that that's, you know, entertaining. Tank's not that guy. Tank is a real fighter. He's not there, you know, to be the guy that stands out on brand risk. You know what I mean? He's not there to, you know, say some wild off the mark shit so that people would just like, I mean, yes, he isn't, but no, he's not, right? He's not going to do that with Jake Paul. You don't respect him enough to do that shit with Jake Paul. So then Jake Paul has to go do what? Fight fucking AJ, get his jaw broken, possibly never fight ever again. And all because he had a shit show with Mike Tyson. I mean, not all because, but a lot of it because, right? If that Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight was quality, right? If it was a real contest back and forth, people would have given Jake Paul more credit to fight lesser, certainly not someone like AJ, right? Next, that's crazy. So if Shakur comes out of that fight, puts a stinker out, you know, you could argue that it does less for him. I'm genuinely disappointed in that God of War reveal, but I digress. It's better than Shakur signed with Zuffa. Funny. You are fucking terrible. Oh, he's talking about the Mayweather derangement syndrome. We didn't pick Floyd Oscar wrong. Ask Floyd Sr. Oof, yikes. He says Oscar won that fight. We need to do a watch along. I've always wanted to do a watch along. Ness was never interested in doing a watch along for that fight for whatever reason. You know, he was never interested in doing the Oscar De La Hoya Trinidad one either. The only reason we did that is because I pressed so much, and then he kept getting crazy like DMs and, you know, real like people that put people that were like high tier Patreon members, like 80% of them were like, do that fight. We want to watch that fight. We want y'all to do that fight. So that was the only reason we did that one. Not a lot of people wanted us to do the Oscar Floyd thing. So that's probably why we didn't do it. But I would love to do it. I really would. But let's get into the Holly Holm stuff. We got about 20 minutes before Wade's supposed to come on. So let's Floyd has been sorely missed in boxing, though. There just hasn't been a fight night quite the same as Floyd fights. Agreed, champ. Very much agreed. The prize fighting element of combat sports has shifted across the board. But when it comes to boxing, I feel like you can honestly say it's not as quality, right? Like there's something missing from the press conferences. There's something missing from the weigh-ins. There's something missing from that fight night atmosphere. You know what I mean? Although I will say, I think it gives more credence to the undercard. Like I remember the Floyd era very well, right? That was the era that, I started working in the biz. And so like, I can very much remember undercards in boxing being a joke, a big fat nothing, right? The best one that you can even recall in that era was the Canelo Floyd, right? Where Danny fought Matisse. And that was a great fight. Sorry. UFC would put on these fucking badass undercards, right? Where Dan Henderson was like the opening match, right? Or like Rampage was like the co-main event in a blood feud. Like there were moments where UFC would go out of their way to stack the card, right? There would be those like December, January cards where they just go fucking ham. And then of course, like every centennial event, UFC 100, 200, 300 are, more extravagant, right? UFC White House card, right? But the UFC did it on a very consistent level for years, putting together quality events, not a quality main event or a sellable main event with shit underneath, right? Because that's what we got for years. Guys just wanting to like, put their potentially next big star or potentially next best fighter on the undercard, right? To get seen by different people in the industry, right? Today it works different though. And, one of the obvious things I could point to right now that we just experienced was David Morrell's loss to what's that guy's name? I love that guy. I can't believe Abe called me out on the shirt thing. Hold on, I have it. Where is that guy? He had that hilarious David Benavidez response. He's like, did David Benavidez do that? No, I did. Who's that guy? Fuck, what's his name? Let me just look it up. Fuck it. What happened? It kicked off? No, it's still there. It looks super behind. Oh, never mind. Oh, TikTok. Yeah, that's that. I think that got kicked off like 30 minutes ago. For whatever reason, I can't stay on the rest of these platforms and TikTok. One of them drops off every single time, either TikTok or IG. IG is supposed to only last an hour. It's lasted an hour 38 so far. So I'm still live on that. But TikTok, for whatever reason, I guess. It would be a big Houston fight for sure. H-Town shows up for that fight. Yeah, again, I don't question whether it's sellable. What I'm at a point, like, okay, where I'm at with the Shakur stuff is this. There are a lot of people that have been covering this sport for a really long time that are willing right now to give Shakur the pound for pound best in the sport right now. That is not how pound for pound works for me. That is not how you secure being the guy, right? Like Floyd Mayweather once was, like Chocolatito once was, right? Like Terrence Crawford once was. You do it by beating guys that are a lot closer to your pedigree. And when you're as elite as Shakur, that list is small. It is a very short list of guys who you can sell as a threat. And so Shock isn't one of those guys for me. So even though it's probably a fun fight, even though it's a fight that's close enough that I could cover in Houston, right? Even though it's a fight that probably does a good box office, or gate, I mean, probably does decent, TV numbers. Certainly it has all the elements and ingredients to cultivate, a profit stew. But it doesn't tell me anything about Shakur. Like, not a thing. Now, that's not necessarily true, right? Like, if he were to be able to go out there and starch him in 3, I would not expect that at all. But if he were to do that, yeah, that would tell me a little bit something different, I think, about him for sure, right? But the fight I expect to see simply doubles down on exactly what I know to be true about Shakur right now. He seems like the goods. But like we were having this conversation about baseball players. There's this kid, he's in 7th grade or 8th grade in my area. Okay. And he's a 2-sport phenom. I don't remember his name, Alex something. I don't know him. His dad's neighbors with my best friend, my goddaughter's dad. They're neighbors. So this is how I know of this kid. I've met his dad. This kid, I mean, they're like selling out his games in 8th grade or so. I don't know. He's either 7th going to 8th or he's 8th going to 9th. I don't know. But they're like, oh, he's fucking hitting bombs and he's doing this and he's doing that. And, he's putting up 40 points in a middle school game and he's winning tournament MVPs in New Mexico and blah, blah, blah. Like all these other, he's on this travel team that LeBron's son used to play, like all this crazy shit, right? The last part I just made up. I was just being, sarcastic. But it was controversial a bit. I got into it a little bit with these guys because they all have kids, right? I don't have kids. So I can be honest. It's hard for the guys to be honest sometimes about their kids because they all play sports now, right? They don't want to like say something, you know what I mean? Like they all believe in their kids and that's great. Awesome. But, should they? No, I'm just kidding. But the thing is this, like, I played sports long enough to know that there are so many kids that you think are going to be like, oh my God, there was this kid, Rudy. Yo, he was a phenom. He was like a fucking man playing amongst boys at 13, 12, just bombs every game, and he played JUCO baseball, right? He got to college, but at the end of the day, like, he couldn't really hit a breaking pitch, and I'm not saying this kid isn't going to pan out. I'm just saying that it's different when you face higher level things, right? So this kid playing basketball, I'm not trying to be a dick. If this comes out as me being a dick, then obviously I apologize. But this kid playing basketball in a city full of bunch of short Mexicans, I don't know if that's like good enough to say that he's going to be like an NCAA phenom or like a top 3 pick in the NBA. Like I can't imagine anyone who actually knows what it takes or even has a small, like I have a very small understanding because I had so many friends in high school and college drafted to pros, right? My biggest friend was Kyle Thibault, who is in the Texas A&M Hall of Fame. He was drafted, I think it was either the 4th or the 5th round by the Padres. No. I'm sorry. It was the 6th round by the Padres. And a very good signing bonus. He didn't go to the pros. He said as a petroleum engineer, he was going to make more in the first year as a petroleum engineer than he was in the next like 4 or 5 years as a, you know, triple A, double A, single A guy, right? Playing for the minors. And so he didn't go to the pros. Like, I had other friends who went straight out of high school and they took that, you know, round 12 or 13 extension beyond draft pick, whatever, took their minimum signing bonus, all that, right? And things didn't pan out, you know? And so it's like, you can't know the quality of somebody, regardless of how they look in practice, sparring, tournaments, you know, minors, amateurs, whatever, right? You can't, no matter how well they're passing the test, you cannot think of them like that until they've proven on the level for which they exist. Shock isn't that guy. Let me see. For what the boxing business is, that fight sells the tickets they would want to make that fight. I agree. Abe said he doesn't think that fight's happening next. He didn't say why, and I assume he can't say why, right? Abe's very well connected to those two camps. So, you know, if you were listening to what he said, he was telling you a lot without telling you. And if he doesn't think the fight is going to happen next, I'm willing to bet it doesn't. But until he said that, I very much thought that was a fight that they would attempt to make. I can't see a reason why either side wouldn't want to do it at this point. But like I said, I mean, Abe knows far more than I do, and far more than he can report. So if Shakur beats Hitchens and Haney, I put him number 1 or number 2. Listen, if he beat either one of those guys, I'd be willing to put him at number 2 or number 3. If he beat both of those guys, yeah, I think that's number 1. Listen, that's why people don't, or not. I'm not saying that's why people don't like pound for pound. I'm saying I think that's why people don't like the pound for pound system and conversation, because it leads to this kind of thing. It's like, who do you give more credit to? Right? Do you give more credit to Canelo? Because like, okay, so like, let's go back to whatever years it was. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, whatever it was, where Terrence Crawford, Canelo, and Usyk occupied and Inoue, right? They occupied the top 4 spots, right? It was essentially thought that one of those 4 were going to be universally recognized as a pound for pound on most people's lists, right? Going back to that time, right? How much more credit do you give to each of the fighters, and how much less credit do you give to each of these fighters, right? I am somebody who very much believes those are the top 4 guys at one point. And I also agree. I also think that Usyk is a special fighter in his own lane at this point for what he's been able to do at heavyweight. That said, though, do you give more credit to Usyk, who fought in a division that nobody knew, that's cruiserweight, that draws flies, but was stacked in perhaps the greatest version, or the deepest version, the most competitive era of cruiserweight ever? Or do you give it to Canelo, who unified super middleweight without having to face David Benavidez? Or do you give it to Inoue, who, you know, fought in a era, or not an era, fought in a division of guys that certainly weren't on his level? These were quality guys. He deserves credit for beating them because of the way he beat them. But again, the point I'm making is I could disparage anyone. I can take credit from anyone. And I could also give credit to everyone. So it's hard to have this this Shakur is pound for pound conversation, because on one hand, you can say that he's passing every test the way that a pound for pound number 1 guy would, while at the same time being void of any one fight that is considered as a viable conquest to you, right? Somebody who can actually beat you. Those are 2 different things at this point. And you have to give credit, right, to Shakur for being so obviously good at this sport in boxing that he's able to exist levels above guys that have proven themselves to be the top in the division. But again, it's like, who do you give more credit to? Shakur looks like that guy. He certainly does. I would have no problems stating that within the next several years, he will be the definitive pound for pound guy. Is he that guy right now in an era where Usyk's fighting? And you could say that the Rico fight, diminishes Usyk's place at number one. But all I would say is that, first of all, you're right. But second of all, tell me what Shakur's done that even remotely comes close to Usyk's accomplishments. And pound for pound doesn't exist as a means of taking in every single accomplishment a fighter's had. And it's supposed to reference what boxing looks like at the pound for pound level in that moment, right? But again, we're going off of a Tio fight that he won. Like, all respect to Tio, but who did he really beat on that night? I don't. If the narrative is that prime Tio that we saw fighting on, NFL draft night, I don't think that's an argument you can win. But don't you think he has to fight someone that he got in the ring with? I'm tired of seeing him face off and not fight. Very good point, Matt. Very good point. I am also very tired of, and this is across the board, right? This has happened in UFC. I mean, not as much, right? But it's happened in UFC. It's happened in boxing for every promoter. You can't name a promoter that this hasn't happened, right? And by the way, I think your point holds more relevancy today because of what we were just subjected to by Turkey with the AJ Fury stuff. That was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen at a fight at that level. You told everybody you had an earth-shattering, boxing-changing announcement, and then you attempted to cuck AJ in Matchrooms, Eddie Hearn, because Fury beat some rando. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. No. I'm going to eat. I agree with that, right? Like, I don't hate the shock fight, right? I'll take it if we're not going to get anyone at Shakur's level or anyone that I think would be a valid test for him. And again, that list is very short. Because that list is very short, the likelihood that any of those fights happen are very small. So if I have to choose between Shakur fighting Shock, somebody who has grown, who has gotten better over the last 6-7 years, and has solidified himself as one of the top in the division, I'll take that every day over someone like Elvis, right? Like, of course I will. But again, I don't think it does anything for anyone that is clocking Shakur right now. You know what I mean? Like, if you're clocking him and you see the specialness in Shakur Stevenson, I don't know what you learn in that fight about him. I don't know how much more you can say. Like, I don't know how much more evidence or how much more credence it gives to him being pound for pound number one. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Travel ball is the biggest scam in America right now. Well, I don't know if it's the biggest scam, homie, but I will say that it is certainly a scam. When I was playing baseball, this is a very long time ago. When I was playing baseball at a level for which I was trying to get collegiate scholarships, there were a handful of select teams. All right, and the travel ball era was very different. Like, not every city had a travel ball team. Like, today, every city has a travel ball team, right? And that's why it's a scam, because back in my day, travel ball teams were coached by, people who had ties to colleges, people who played at collegiate levels. And so those guys had connections to people who they would call and say, hey, you got to watch this kid pitch this weekend, or, hey, we got a couple of hitters, a center fielder and a catcher we need you to come take a look at. When you paid to play travel ball back in that day, right? I played one time for the Sliders. actually only got a pinch hit that day. Somebody had gotten hurt. They had a tournament in Corpus, but that was a San Antonio team. You know what I mean? And we had people from Corpus that played on that team. There was people that from Houston, Dallas. Sliders were the premier travel ball team in Texas. In fact, the Sliders, you will recognize a lot of people who went on to play in the majors, right? Cliff Pennington's probably the best reference I personally have, because I was a freshman when he was a senior. Easily one of the best defenders of his era in the majors, right? He played for the Athletics. He played for Arizona, and I can't remember who else. But in that time, though, tournament ball was expensive, but it was an investment. You knew that college scouts were out there. You knew that pro scouts were out there. You knew that anytime somebody was a detriment to themselves, or you know what? I'm just gonna put it like this: like if you paid to play, it was your best chance of getting seen, especially because of the way that the high school baseball landscape exists. Like I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I promise you, if you're somebody who plays baseball in high school at the varsity level, even if you're not great and don't start, there's a college out there that will play you. I've known so many guys, and I'm not trying to be a hater because these guys weren't super talented naturally, but they were such hard workers that went on to play JUCO ball somewhere. I know this kid named Ryan, fucking so smart, probably one of the smartest kids I've ever known, right? Could have been a fucking doctor, lawyer. I mean, I think he graduated 7 in their class, but he played baseball. You know, he spoke like 3 languages, played all this crazy stuff, right? He could have gone to several different Ivy League colleges. He chose a JUCO in bumfuck Texas because he wanted to play baseball. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that. I mean, I do. I don't know if it's like the decision to make or not, but I will say that when you love something that much and you can make college feel less like a fucking burden, I don't know, probably pretty smart. We were old enough, Mario, when travel was called select ball and only the best of the best made the team. Yeah, well, that and the coaches' kids. You're not wrong, Mario. I've been coaching since 2018 from T-ball all the way up. And in football, parents have this false delusion that truly is detrimental to the child. Yeah. What's worse is when they take that level to high school, right? Because like, I was never a premier athlete. I'm not going to pretend I was, right? But I made my wrestling team my freshman year. I made varsity my sophomore year. Didn't play till junior, but and the kids that you're talking about with the parents you're talking about, those are the ones that like show up to off-season practice where the varsity team is like having BP because the coach can't, do anything. UIL rules prevent him from coaching us in the off-season. Plus, he's a football coach, so he's out there coaching football. And so us varsity guys would organize like unofficial practices, you know what I mean? And it'd always be the same dads out there. You know what I mean? Like even when their kids learned to drive and they had their own cars, these parents were still out there. You can argue that that's them caring, but there was just this aspect they had, this what's the word? This expectation, I think, right? That they couldn't understand why their kids weren't playing or why their kids wouldn't play. And all it did was leave them to be like bullied, right? Like all it did was leave these kids to be ridiculed by other kids. I don't know. It's crazy to be that. People do not understand even at a college level is a small percent. D1 is a percent. Full on pros is 1% of that 1%. Very true. 1 Shakur, 2 Haney, 3 Tank, 4 Tiafimo, 5 Ryan. 5 years later, I keep this same currently. Huh. You still think Tiafimo above Ryan? That's the only one I would maybe switch. But Yeah, I think you're probably right. Again, here's the thing. We could just have that conversation alone, right? That conversation alone could be had. The thing is Shakur and Haney, there's no way to know that until it happens. Dagestan basketball slander will not be tolerated here. Traveling basketball is goated. Yeah, listen, I don't know, dude. All I know is travel basketball got like its own fucking documentary. Like in 2010, it was like this fucking thing. You know what I mean? Spot on, Mario. We have tons of parents nowadays that try to oversee practice. It's strange. Like, if you're that bothered, get out here and help. Absolutely. I agree. Okay. So I want to talk about the White House stuff real quick for a second. Oh shit, it's 6:03. Let me send the invite to Wade real quick. All right. So look, I want to talk about the White House stuff real quick before Wade comes on. Here's the thing, right? I want to say this. Wait, where is it? Where is he? Ah, here he is. All right. Hopefully, not everybody in the world fucking jumps on, because I just did it open. He doesn't follow me, so there's like no way I could send him as a DM. Oh, wait. Nope. There's the DM. Shit. I don't know this. Oh, his DMs are open. Shit. Well, let me go delete that other one I just sent because I don't want a million people to jump on. I mean, obviously a million people wouldn't jump on, but where is it? Here it is. Let me see. Okay. So, let me see. Did your parents ever stay and watch practice once you were like old enough to play? No. Wait. Like at T-ball, like Little League? Even then, no. My Mexican parents both had to work, and either they were like the latchkey parents that showed up like 45 minutes after latchkey ended. But I had a grandma who was there all the time. So, but yeah, no, once high school started, no, actually once 8th grade started. Once I started playing with high school level ball players, no, they never came to practice. Or what age is appropriate to stop just sitting at every practice? I think once they have a ride you trust, you're good. Like, I don't think even staying at every single Little League practice is helpful. Because here's the thing, right? Like, I remember when my parents would show up to like my varsity games because they wouldn't like come during the preseason very much, or like if we were playing like in Hebronville or like out of town or something. They wouldn't come much, right? They wouldn't come much. But when they did come, like, there was this like energetic feeling I had. You know what I mean? Like, or when they would bring my grandparents, which was very rare. Like, my grandparents would probably come to like 3 games a year because when I was playing, all my cousins were playing. I had a cousin playing at almost every school in our district. So they had a lot of games to go to. You know what I mean? So, but it felt special. Like, I felt like I got up during those times. It's not that I'm saying it's bad to watch your kids at practice, whether they're playing football, basketball, or baseball. I'm saying it's bad to involve yourself. There's no reason to go to talk to the coach every day unless you're just being political. There's no reason to try to like subjugate or you know, it's like what happens is they try to like politic, right? You'll have a dad who's out there all the time for whatever reason or however reason. And then like he starts to collect these other parents and then shape the narrative of whatever the parents think about whatever the fucking program, right? And it's just like propaganda or like politically weird. Exactly. It's fucking weird. And then you get the kids that look too. Yeah, exactly, dude. Why should the kids fucking like I remember at wrestling practice, it was 8th grade going into high school, right? And my parents signed me up for this big high school thing that was having everybody in the district, it was at a high school. They were going to like teach us like everything we're going to need to know for high school, like what basketball coaches were going to expect you to understand or know, like football routes and different aspects of, high school level ball, right? The only thing we didn't practice was baseball, but that's because everybody played summer ball. There was the one dad who would come to wrestling practice and just scream at his kid and coach him. It was so uncomfortable and so awkward. And I can tell you that even though that wasn't high school or even school, because we were like all from mostly different schools and stuff, and it was only for the summer, that kid was excluded from everything. Like I had my cousins there, right? So like we were like our own little clique of friends, right? But that kid was excluded from everything. And I'm not saying it was just because of that, but I can tell you that shit didn't help at all. Like your dad's yelling at some fucking 8th grader, like, in how to beat him. Like, that's so fucking weird. I don't know. And by the way, again, this isn't high school. These weren't sanctioned matches. This wasn't going to have any determination on the level of scholarship or what school they get into. This was literally a summer camp for 8th graders becoming freshmen. None of us were very good, because if we were, then we'd be on basketball travel teams or wrestling tournaments out of state or any of the other things. We were all raw athletes who were hoping that we excelled at something, right? And by the way, none of us even picked the things we were best at. I remember, like, I was really good at weightlifting at that age. Should have did that instead for sure, right? Like, I don't know. It wasn't that I was bad at baseball. I just wasn't nearly as good as my family, my cousins, and like but the year that I became a freshman, my cousin Anthony won newcomer of the year for all of 5A. My brother's freshman year. No, my brother's sophomore year. I was a senior when he was a freshman. So I had just graduated. He won newcomer of the year. My cousin Manuel was a 2-sport athlete and salutatorian. He won some crazy scholarship. Didn't even have to play sports, but it was a sports scholarship, which is crazy. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just like a lot. But anyway, White House, let's talk about it. The big news that came out over the weekend, UFC White House. Let's put news. Okay. So the biggest thing that came out about the White House, UFC, is the landscape for what we are getting, as well as the what's the word? Okay, you know what? Let's just talk about it. It's become problematic for some, and there are several narratives playing out in the media, and I want to go through them, and discuss them from a combat sports narrative. Okay. I don't want this to be political. I really don't. Okay. I think by now I've made like my own specific stuff clear. And so I'm done. That's it. I don't want to talk about this from who's MAGA, who's not, nothing like that. I want to talk about this as a combat sports content creator. Okay. It is unfair to the fighters who have trained their entire life. And now you could argue, and a lot of people are, that the UFC roster has become inherently political. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, or if it's just, the propaganda machine at work. But what I do know is this: these guys are not political. Maybe they try to be or allow themselves to be, but they're not political. You know what they are? They're fighters. They're athletes. They don't spend their time at rallies or lobbying at Washington or reading the Constitution or in some fucking, constitutional law program at fucking Yale or Harvard. These guys are doing 2-a-days in the gym. They're running miles upon miles of road work. They're sparring. They're rolling. They're working on their wrestling, right? That's what they're doing. They've gotten PhDs in several different disciplines, and now today attempt to utilize each one of those respected martial arts in a way to become the best, right? That's what this card ultimately represents. That's what I think the problem is that it is a quality card for hardcore fans, and yet it's being fought at the most commercial stage in maybe combat sports history. It's the biggest platform that it's ever going to have. It has to go right. It has to go right. Alex is a avid UFC fan. He believes it's going to go off right. He has no doubt. He has absolute faith. It's not that I don't have faith in it going like gangbusters. It's that I feel like I know what's at risk if it doesn't. And I could be wrong. Like CNN could do their hit piece on Monday or Sunday morning about how barbaric and violent the UFC is and how there's no room for it at the White House, how it doesn't represent American values and blah, 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 right? It can do all that and have no consequences, right? It could also do that. And then, boom, there's some fucking place in wherever starting to discuss, laws or different rules or the use of elbows and knees, and people that are outside of the sport should not allow their personal opinions and optics to get in the way of like actual evidence that supports those kinds of things. Like, again, like I'm from the John McCain UFC era. I'm from the human cockfight era. I'm from the this is a blood sport, this is barbaric era. And those were the Republican talking points, by the way, McCain. So I'm scared. I'm not going to lie. It's not that I'm scared. I'm not scared. I'm trying to find a balanced, or you know what? Like I'm at a point where it's like, I've watched long enough to know that no event goes off without a hitch, right? No event is perfect. No event has its is free of logistical issues or infrastructure issues or talent issues or whatever, right? I remember I was covering this fight in Texas. I'm not going to say which fight because I don't want to get into it, but the Texas board, they had a secondary testing, someone who was facilitating the drug test, right? They had drug tested the A side the day before. The B side had yet to be tested. I was at the event, and of course I'm getting stonewalled from the commission and things like that. And I'm one of like 3 people in the arena that has learned this. And so part of me is like, should I talk to one of the more seasoned journalists and try to get their help with it? Or do I keep it for myself and, try to make it bigger, or like try to like, break a story here? Like I it was like one of those moments where I was like out of my depth a little bit, out of my element a little bit. Right. They scrambled like a motherfucker once I made it apparent that some of us knew what was going on, and they didn't want it to be a story at all, right? That wasn't even a promoter issue, right? That's not, or what I'm saying is that's not an issue a promoter can even control. The point I'm making is that like the UFC can do everything in their power to make sure that they're prepared as much as possible. I mean, it can't predict the unpredictable, right? Chaos theory is a theory. Actually, you know what? I don't think I'm good enough to explain it the way that I know it. Well, either way, I mean, chaos theory, I think you understand the basis of the name, but there are elements, there are tangibles, variables that cannot be predicted. And so in that way, it's tough. So you are already putting all of these obstacles and elements that deal with putting on a show, right? And they're already more problematic than any other arena show that you would do, right? And now you still got to prepare for the unexpected. That's my fear. My fear is that on the stage for which is going to be the biggest and the most haters watching, there is a narrative that they will be searching for to justify not just the event not being at the White House, and it should have never been at the White House, but even possibly MMA's place in sports. And I feel like we just got here. Like, I feel like we just arrived at the place where the semblance of MMA could be respected and understood as a sport, right? It didn't happen overnight. We didn't just get on Fox and then all of a sudden we're mainstream. No, the UFC has worked very hard. The Fertitta brothers worked very hard. Dana White has worked very hard at making this the fastest growing sport, the fastest growing franchise, I think, as well. I don't know. I don't know what the narratives are anymore or the talking points, but I do know they're true. It's not propaganda. The UFC absolutely has had a meteoric rise. And I feel like, again, we've just gotten to this place where it's, accepted, respected, appreciated the way that these athletes and fighters should be appreciated and at the level they should, mainstream wise, right? Commercially speaking, they should absolutely be getting Nike deals and, fucking Happy Dad. I don't know what the fuck, whatever, commercial shit that LeBron gets. These fighters should absolutely have access to that same thing. Putting this show on is a potential hindrance, I think, to that. It was Spence versus Ocampo, wasn't it? Or Orlando Salido fight. He said Salido. Is it a bad thing if Justin Gaethje gets violently KO'd? No, I don't think so. See, I love this question. I'm going to leave it up. There's a Reddit MMA, right? Or MMA Reddit has this narrative that if I don't want to say American values, because that's not the argument. Let's just say if an American doesn't get over on that night, then it's a failure. The whole show's a failure. It makes me upset that that's a narrative. It makes me upset that there are actual people that call themselves MMA or even UFC fans, right? That believe that. I can't imagine believing that, right? Because here's the thing. First of all, nobody gives a fuck about Rocky after he beats Apollo Creed if there wasn't a big bad Russian to fight, right? In order to have hero narratives, you have to have villain narratives. I'm not calling Ilya or Justin or anybody in the UFC, Jemayev, Strick, I'm not calling any of them a villain. What I am saying is when you have a match, like a promotion, in a lot of ways, it resembles the WWE or wrestling's thing, right? There's a bad guy usually, there's a good guy usually, right? And sometimes those lines aren't super clear. And a lot of times it's based on the fans, right? So like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. I think that the good guy and the bad guy maybe have, it's who you're asking, right? But I think the majority would call Pacquiao the good guy in that one, right? Mayweather, McGregor, that's a perfect one. If you're an MMA fan, there's no bigger villain in the world than Floyd Mayweather. And if you're a boxing fan, there had never been another villain as big as Floyd Mayweather. And yet you're rooting for Floyd because now at this moment, boxing and combat sports have created a foil to that Floyd narrative. And it exists as not a controversial, as a antagonist narrative, right? If Conor McGregor wins, beats Floyd Mayweather, perhaps the most technically advanced fighter of all time, perhaps the GOAT, the guy that was able to beat everyone, and then Conor McGregor would have beaten him. Oh my God. That would have shattered the illusion of anything boxing. So I mean, the repercussions of that would have been terrible for boxing. Absolutely awful, right? I mean, they haven't been super great with Tyson Fury and Ngannou, and that's because AJ fucking, put him on notice. It doesn't matter, right? Rico got stopped. It doesn't matter, right? If you give these guys an inch, they're going to take it. And so I don't know. I just think that Justin Gaethje could get violently KO'd and it be one of the steps towards like one of the biggest UFC fights next year or in 2028, right? Is there a clear-cut American fighter that could answer to that? Maybe not right now, but give it time. You know what I mean? So, no, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't, because that's the thing is like, what is this event? Is it supposed to be an American event? Because if it is, then that's a failure already. This is supposed to be a UFC event that's celebrating America. Sure, of course, on the birthday of its 250th anniversary, fine. But UFC and MMA is a world sport. When you talk about the best fighter in the world, he exists in the UFC. That narrative is rock solid, right? Just like whoever wins between the Spurs and the Knicks, that's the greatest basketball team on earth at this moment. I mean, not counting world teams, of course, but when you talk about the pro levels and you talk about Canadian pro basketball, Japanese pro basketball, right? Lithuanian pro basketball, NBA is the top dog. So is the UFC. And so even though like baseball, MLB holds the deepest roster of the world's best players, but there's some pitchers in Japan that, you know, could dominate in America. I mean, maybe not dominate, but certainly have a good career, right? And we've seen guys come over from Japan have Hall of Fame careers, right? Ichiro Otani's the best player in baseball right now. Making a sport more worldly broadens its horizon, right? Boxing as an American sport was on its deathbed. It was dying. It was suffering the slowest death you've ever seen. And it wasn't just the UFC or anything. It was a bunch of different things contributing to it. And you know what saved American boxing? The world level, the UK, Japanese fighters. The interests of boxing in other places has helped to elevate our own fandoms, right? And American boxing probably is probably at its least popular that it's been in some time, right? The thing is this: you can't have like, okay, you know what? I'll use this example, right? Like the WNBA. People talk shit about and I know my community of people that have heard me make this argument before. I'm sorry, but we have actually a lot of new people that I'm assuming are waiting for Wade to jump on. And so I want to explain it, right? The WNBA, a lot of people have a problem with it, right? And specifically men have a problem with it. They say that there's no reason that they should have like equal pay or that their pay should be better, that they are what's the word? It's like supplemental from the NBA, right? They supplement the WNBA. The proceeds of the NBA are big enough to, you know, keep the WNBA running. And so there are people that will say, you know, oh, nobody watches it. You know, they're lucky to exist, you know, just like a lot of things, right? And look, I think some of it's probably based on, you know, chauvinistic, I guess is the word, ideas, but I think a lot of it's also just based on the facts, right? You can look at the ratings, you can look at the numbers, and they draw a very specific argument, right? But those are for the people that just want to win an argument. Those aren't actual basketball fans, right? Because if you're a basketball fan, you absolutely want the WNBA to exist. You absolutely understand the reason that you know, they would supplement the WNBA. If you look at the biggest sports in the world, like soccer, like golf, like tennis, these are sports that are able to be played by different, like you could be a man, you could be a woman, you could be a boy, girl, whatever, right? And you can play these sports. In fact, golf's the biggest, and that's because old people can play it, young people can play it, the disabled can play it. You know what I mean? It's a sport that anyone can participate in. And so that's why it's, you know, go look how many golf shops and used golf shops are in your fucking neighborhood or in your city, and then check how many boxing places there are, right? It's ultimately a much more financially optimal sport. And that's because they've spread it into the world, right? They've spread it into the world and they try to make it as diverse as possible. So if the NBA exists solely, the data will always support a male driven sport, right? And that's fine. That's great, right? The key demo is 18 through 40 males, right? Or 38 or 35, whatever the fuck it is. I mean, that's the most sought after demographic, right? So it's not like you can't be financially good or successful. But if you can create women fans out of actual women and young girls who grow up to be long-term fans and teach their kids, boys or girls, to be fans, then you're building a wider version of basketball, right? You're building a more commercially viable version of basketball. Like when I was a kid, there was one like semi-pro baseball team in our area, right? Today in Texas, there are many, many different semi-pro leagues. There are many different towns that have now single A affiliated teams, double A affiliated teams, triple A, right? The Savannah Bananas have become a very big, very marketable machine. They just came to Corpus last weekend, and it wasn't even the fucking Savannah Bananas. It was like the Firefighters versus whoever the fuck the Savannah Bananas always play, right? Those two teams played because now the Savannah Banana, that baseball, genre of, I guess you would call it like the, what were their names? The Harlem Globetrotters, right? Yeah, the like they're like baseball version of that, right? Now they have more teams and a bigger league, and it's growing. And part of the reason of that is the inclusion that the MLB has had in the world, right? Like Japan, Puerto Rican, Cuban, all these different places, they flock to the States to play at the MLB level. And that brings us fandom from all around the world, right? There was that one movie about the Indian guy that got a scholarship. I mean, not a scholarship, a chance to play for the majors, right? He was like a former cricket guy or something like that. Like that had like a 3% or 2%, something like that, increase in Indian fans. And what's that part of Asia? Whatever. Like a lot of people started watching from Pakistan and things, are not a lot, but there was an increase, right? There's this idea like representation turns into like DEI stuff, which isn't real either. But at the end of the day, if you're a corporation like the NBA, like the WWE, like Target, like Bud Light, you don't want to just be for men or just be for women. You want to, why Dr. Pepper 10 doesn't exist anymore? Because the marketing campaign fucked them terribly. Women drink Dr. Pepper too. But then you put a fucking 10-calorie can out there because who's always trying to lose weight? Fucking women. And you're saying Dr. Pepper 10, the choice of men. And then you fucking wonder why it didn't sell for shit. Look, I'm not advocating anything or anyone. All I'm saying is I understand the narrative of trying to broaden the horizons of a sport, trying to make it beyond this local attraction in this city or local attraction in this state or in this area of the United States or in the United States. No, let's cross over. Let's fucking see if Europe likes it. Let's see if fucking the Chinese like it. You know what I mean? That's why that's why the NFL keeps having games in Mexico, London. Did they have one in Ireland? I know they have one in London, but whatever, right? And the MLB keeps having these games, right? Houston's played in Mexico a few times. Like, they keep spreading out. The way that soccer has taken off in the US, because by the way, soccer's really taken off in the US. I don't know if people are aware of that. When I was a kid, soccer was like a nothing sport. Not that nobody played it, but nobody gave a fuck about who played it, right? I think that the Howard was that year that Howard was the goalie? Was it 2016 or 12? That started that World Cup started like when Donovan was playing. That started like a renaissance, like an American soccer renaissance that is still we're feeling the impact of today, right? And this is going to be the biggest World Cup for Americans, probably in the history of America. There are more people that are fans of soccer today, and that is because the global reach of soccer attacked the US, and now we have so many different places that have soccer, professional level soccer, that we never did before. The interest levels just spike. So I say all that to say that the UFC is a world sport. It should be treated as a world sport. It's not an American idea, right? Like, not even a little bit. If you trace the roots back to to where you could connect MMA to a more ancient time, yeah, it's certainly not inherently American. Yeah. So, and by the way, every single one of those guys in the White House press conference for the UFC fight were like, they loved America, right? They were all talking it up. So, although here's the wrestling fan in me. I do think it would have been probably super inappropriate and probably maybe ruin this person's career. But one of the guys should have just come and be like, I am going to beat. They should, what they should have done? They should have embodied the Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter era program. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to get disrespectful. You don't have to be like, you don't have to become Hassan Piker and have these crazy 9/11 takes, right? But what you could do maybe is say something along the lines of I don't know what. It is good to be here at America's birthday, America, the place of immigrants, so that I could teach each and one of you Americans what real MMA, you know what I mean? You could do it like that, right? You don't have to be disrespectful about it. But that shit would have made it pop off for real, right? Like, there's no vibes of this that were intended to feel like Joe Lewis and Max Schmeling. I mean, not Max Schmeling. Yeah, wait, no. Wait, who did Lewis fight? What Nazi did he fight? Was it Smell? It was Schmeling, right? Let me look. Yeah, it was Max Schmeling. Yeah, it doesn't have to go that route, right? But at the same time, I don't know. Probably would have been more interesting for casual fans for sure. But let me see what the fuck was that. Okay, so anyway, let's just dive into some of this stuff here, okay? Let me just pull up any article. I don't give a fuck. This one. Okay, so when President Donald Trump first presented the idea of the UFC fight on the White House South Lawn, some people thought he was joking. We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this. One of the on the grounds of the White House, Trump said in Iowa last July, teasing special events honoring America's 250th anniversary, which, by the way, is also Trump's birthday. Fast forward about a year, and the idea is becoming reality. Construction crews are building a fight cage on the South Lawn for the June 14th fight, and the White House has now dwarfed a massive arc lighting grid, which the Ultimate Fighting Championship calls the Claw. When the fighters strap on their gloves and climb into the cage, more than 90,000 people will descend on the White House grounds to see them battle it out. The Claw. The construction of the Claw came into view late May over the top of the White House briefing room, where reporters began to take notice. The massive structure is now nearly impossible to miss, even blocks from the White House. CEO Dana White told the Jim Rome show that UFC found a place in Belgium to create the structure. The fuck? It's a lighting grid that almost looks like a spaceship, and it goes over the octagon, White said, referring to the UFC's signature 8-sided fenced-in fighting arena. Shipped in from Belgium to Philly, built it in Philly and tested it, tore it back down and put it on trucks and shipped it to DC. So this is it right here. Now, Joe Rogan said something on his show the other day that made people believe they weren't going to have a top for it. It is going to have a top from all the designs that have come out that are based on the actual idea. It does have a top. It doesn't have an enclosure is what it doesn't have. So that's, I think, what he was trying to say. Anyway, Okay, so lead up to the fight. Several events are programmed in the days leading up to the fight, which falls on Flag Day and Trump's 80th birthday, including meet and greets with current and former UFC athletes, a Zach Brown band concert, and a ceremonial weigh-in, all culminating in a watch party on the Ellipse. Who's fighting? The fight card includes a main event between American Justin Gaethje versus Ilyich Obria in the light Brazilian of all the bouts. Okay, tickets. All the events are free and ticketed. Wait, what? All events are free and ticketed. However, the cutoff to request tickets for the UFC 250 Fan Fest was May 22nd, according to the last chance email UFC sent out. A White House official has told CNN a month that people are vying for tickets to the event, a third of which are reserved for military members and their families, a third of the White House staff and their families, and another third for VIPs. UFC also has 200 tickets to give out on the South Lawn. White told Fox News in an interview that 4,300 people will be on the actual South Lawn for the fight, and most of them will be military. So this has become the biggest controversy of, or let me say the biggest mainstream controversy. So this is like people that are not in the or like that don't cover combat sports, right? They don't cover UFC. So if you didn't understand what was going to happen, let me explain. And I don't mean that you didn't understand. I mean, like, you know, let me just put it into context. I'm sure my community understands this 1000%. So they expected this, right? They expected this. They had to. Of course they did. They knew there would be fallback. They knew there would be drawback. And I can tell you that there is and was always going to, we're always going to be hit pieces on this. There are always going to be narratives that the media was going to spin. People like to call it the mainstream media. I think that's a little stupid because that's a way of characterizing specific political media brands, right? Without actually giving credence to what mainstream media actually means. Like Joe Rogan's mainstream medium now. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's different, right? It hits different. But there was always going to be a mainstream narrative coming out of the non-combat sports section of this news cycle that was going to find as many reasons to dislike the event or promote it badly, right? So let's start there with it. That isn't, it's not facts. I'm not giving you facts that there was always going to be, right? But that is, I think, a truth we can all at least agree on, right? To a degree. That seems more likely that places that think unfavorably of Trump were going to lump in the UFC. And I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that it was always going to be political for them. It was always going to be, how can we make this event look stupid? How can we make it look like a bad decision? How can we make the timing look bad? Which the timing might have been just bad anyway. I think even Trump sees that, you know, this wasn't the best time to have it. But all that being said, here it is. We're here. Okay. We are in the midst of the most ruthless hit pieces that are going to come out. Now, there could be stuff, you know, on fight week that absolutely comes out, but I don't think that's going to be more up to the UFC, right? That's going to be more up to the fighters giving a reason for them to hate, as opposed to anything that they actually find worth substance or of substance, right? There are about 85,000 tickets allotted. Okay. So a White House official told CNN last month that people are vying for oh, my bad, I read that part. Okay, so senior Pentagon leaders are putting together a list of uniformed service members who will be offered the chance to attend the fight, but tickets will only be given to those who meet military body composition standards, according to guidance memos received or reviewed by CNN and sources familiar with the process. So this is the story. They are saying troops must meet weight standards to get free tickets to the White House UFC fight. Now, if you don't know or follow politics, that's okay. I can explain this much to you. When Pete Hegseth was given control of what is now referred to by the White House as the War Department, formerly the Defense Department, he started making radical changes to aspects of, you know, military and things like that. And I think you probably remember, like, on the heels of the first Trump assassination, people were like, "Oh, look, the women sucked at defending him. Like, they shouldn't be fucking blah blah blah." This is the same crowd with the same narrative to a degree. It's that Pete Hegseth branch of MAGA who feels like, you know, cops and soldiers has just got to be like fucking like rock solid studs. I don't know. It's weird, but whatever. So that's off of this precipice, right? They have standards that military members have to, active military members have to abide by. Now, by the way, there was always standards. There was always like a bar that was set that incoming recruits had to pass. And I think there was even it's like a 3 or 5 year, I can't remember, but like depending your rank, there are aspects of your physical prowess that are under or up for review, right? Now these were different, okay? This is a body to weight ratio that's changed. And so now they're holding it for the UFC fight. Now, I have also seen places that are saying that CNN and the Washington Post left out certain specifics of this memo. Now, while the memo did decree that they didn't want, you know, fatty types, they didn't mean like they couldn't get tickets. What supposedly was said in the memo is that they're not going to be able to enjoy ringside seats for whatever reason, or I guess because of the optics. They would like everybody in the front row to be like the most example leading physical specimens that our American military has to offer. I'm not saying it's gay. I'm also not saying it's not gay. I don't know. That's a conversation for a later time. What I will say is this, right? If you're somebody who, no, I'm not going to subscribe. If you're somebody who has members of their family in the military or has served themselves or even has a general understanding of the way the military works, like active duty members are not necessarily people that are going into fucking war areas and are going to be like fucking, you know, Schwarzenegger, right? There are so many jobs in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, right? Just because you're one of two dudes on a plane in the Air Force, it doesn't make you the Air Force, right? There are so many people responsible for making sure that plane is ready to perform when they need it to perform. There are so many people behind the scenes that without their accounting, without their you know, office services like type shit, right? The military would be an absolute disaster. You know, you cannot fight a war if you don't know how many weapons you have, for example, or what the cost of that war would be over time, how long you can like let me tell you something right now. I don't know if this has been said in like mainstream media or anything, but when Trump entered into this Iran conflict, they had a very specific window of how long it was going to take before things got bad, like how long America could like sustain, right? They did that for a really long time, and so we knew going into this there's a better outcome if we end it by this date, you know, and then this outcome changes if we end it by this date. Like there are parameters for which they're willing to engage in this, right? If it takes us beyond the summer, America's going to get hit hard, right? We're going to start feeling it with even more than we already are with, you know, gas prices, planes, or like trips. Like, yo, forget things. If this is still going on by November, December, yo, it's going to cut travel, you know, for holiday at least by a quarter. I mean, that's what happened with the last one, right? With Afghanistan and then Iraq. The Strait of Hormuz, like all that, it hasn't really affected us, a lot. So they know they have this timeline and this window for which they can get it done. The reason that they have those timelines, the reason why they understand as much about the potential risks of this conflict is because of fat dudes in uniform. I mean, I'm not saying every accountant's fat or everybody in the fucking office is fat, but I am saying that a lot of Americans are overweight. And to make it seem like the buffest dudes in the military are somehow more, not important, but what's the word? More deserving of a better experience seems like weirdo shit to me. It feels like a lack of respect for the military, right? Like, here's the thing. I wouldn't have had a problem if the UFC said the whole thing was going to be for military. Like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't suck, but it's like, it sucks for like people that want to go to the fight and content creators and people and journalists and things like that. Because obviously all those things are going to get cut in half, if not more. But the problem is this though, right? The UFC event for the military service should be honoring anyone who is doing a job that helps to benefit our military and our protection, right? Like, I don't appreciate your service just because you used a gun. Like, if you tell me that all you did was push paperwork, well, fucking thank you for your service, dude. Because you could have made a shit ton of more money doing it for a bigger fucking company like Palantir or Target or Walmart. And instead you went this route and honorably served our military. Like, who am I to be like, oh, you didn't fucking Rambo out? How fucking pussy, dude. Do you even have a six-pack that I could fucking lick? Probably not. Like, you know what I mean? It sounds gay. I don't know. I'm not saying that's a problem. It's just like, why does it have to be that way? You know what I mean? Like, why do we have to be like, yeah, only the buff soldiers? Like, that's crazy work to me. It really is. But again, that's not the full narrative, right? The narrative is that they want the optics of like this badass, like Marine Corps type shit, right? All I know is that a lot of people serve our country adamantly, bravely, every day. And I am grateful for them on a real level because I never did join the military. And it's not that I feel ashamed, not at all. I do feel like a bit of a guilt sometimes. You know what I mean? Especially because I have so many family members and friends that did join the military. Now, I could have never joined the military because of my kidney issue, right? I get kidney stones, urinary tract infections on a pretty regular basis. Based on surgery I had when I was 5 years old at Boston Children's Hospital, where they redesigned essentially my urinary tract. So I'm useless in war, but that didn't mean I couldn't have been an accountant or like a journalist for the military's newspaper or their media stuff, right? Like, I could have served this country in another way. And I don't know, maybe it's not too late. Maybe I still can. But ultimately, every day, I am appreciative of those people. And I don't give a fuck. If they're wearing a hat that tells me that they serve this military, I thank them. Like the other day, I don't remember when it was like 2 weeks ago. There was a guy who was wearing a Vietnam hat. He's this older Mexican man. He was in back of me. I said, oh, thank you for your service. Please get in front. When I found out he was only getting cigarettes, I bought him. You know what I mean? I don't have a lot of money, but if I can afford it, I'll swing it if I can. I didn't ask him if he was, a sniper or if he flew jets that exploded people into pieces. I didn't ask him if he was in control of weapons that vaporized people. I didn't ask him any of that. I didn't care. He is part of a machine that makes our military run. And someone like me who didn't serve, I don't think has any justifications of judging them. And I think that that should be the way that it is for other people too. Like, I would never try to like speak for anybody else. I don't want to project my feelings onto others. But if you don't appreciate our military, fuck off, right? Eat a dick. Eat a fucking fat dick. And if your respect for the military is based on how fit they are, you might be gay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying you might be gay. And again, cool. Probably you should come out because it seems like it's, coming out pretty toxic that you're not openly gay. But yeah, it's like you're openly gay. And listen, I'm not going to hate on Trump not being in the military because of bone spurs, because again, I have my own issues, right? That motherfucker wasn't in the military either. You know what I mean? He eats fucking McDonald's and crazy shit for fucking dinner. Like, I just don't understand how this dude who's in charge of this entire movement could allow this narrative to be, I don't know. It just feels disrespectful. Am I the only one who does nobody else agree with that? Or does that seem crazy? Like, I don't know. Oh, let me do the body standard thing. Okay. So let me do this one real quick. So senior Pentagon leaders, this is the other article. Senior Pentagon leaders are putting together a list of uniformed U.S. service members who will be offered the chance to attend the UFC fight and the White House next month, hosted by President Donald Trump. But tickets will only be given to those in the military that meet body composition standards, according to the guidance memos reviewed by CNN and sounds familiar. Ticket recipients are required to meet the Department of War waist to height ratio standards of less than 0.55, as well as all other service specific physical fitness test requirements. One of the memos sent to the service members says using Pentagon's preferred acronym for the agency. That figure is roughly in line with the standards for service members that the Defense Department put in place earlier this year when it made weight to height ratio the new body composition standard for measuring a service member's war fighting readiness. The Cleveland Clinic lists the average height of an American men and women at 5'9" and 5'4". Damn, I'm fucking short for a dude. That's fucked up. Oh well. Yeah. Oh yeah, you 5'9" bitches. Let's see who squats more. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even squat a lot anymore. Let me see. Women at 5'9", blah, blah, blah. At those heights, troops would need to have a maximum 37-inch waist for the average man and a 35-inch waist for the average woman. 5'9", 37-inch waist. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. No, it's not. I don't know if it's fucked up, but I don't know. I mean, again, dude, it's hard to have this conversation. Like, okay, let's do it this way. Okay. This is going to be one of the gayest things I've ever done. I don't care because I don't give a shit, right? There's zero part of me that has any problems with gay or trans community at all. So I'm okay if I'm a little gay sometimes. Let's do it like this. Let's do this real gay. All right. So I'm going to show y'all a picture of me. Let's see. Let's get a good one, right? Let's get a good one where it'll be like, oh yeah, he was super fucking jacked. This isn't the best, but let's show this. Okay, so this was me. What was it? 2017. Okay. I had been powerlifting for about 2000. What was it? 17. About a year, maybe. What was that? March? Oh no, probably about a year, maybe a little less, a little more. About a year. It was 2006. It was 2015 when I started working out again. I tried to bodybuild, didn't know what it encapsulated, and then realized I didn't have the discipline for bodybuilding. So I switched to powerlifting, mostly because I would see these two dudes who were like 5'2" and 5'3". I had no idea at the time that they were two of the record holders in the world level for their weight class in deadlift and total. And they're just like repping out 315 for their warm up, right? They got 5 plates on each side. They're hidden doubles and triples with weight that I couldn't even imagine. And I was like, damn, I want to be like that. You know what I mean? These short dudes. And maybe it's a Napoleon complex for me, who knows? But I was always short. So if I could grow wider but not taller, seemed like a fair trade-off. Yeah. But I got super jacked here. You know, let me see, what else do we have here? Oh, that's me. That's my dad and fake Selena. So it was like 2017 February. And yeah, you could see I'd been training. I'm not in as great a shape at that point. This is January, so this is before starting to cut more weight with the muscle. You know, that's a lot of things too. I know that women don't watch this show at all. I think I have like a 2% analytic ratio of women that watch my show. But I can tell you this: if your wife or girlfriend or whoever is trying to lose weight and they're like doing like cardio and running and that kind of stuff, tell them to stop. Tell them to start lifting weights. And I know their first response is going to be like, I don't want to look like China, or insert another jack buff female. Tell them this. Tell them you're not. You'll never will be. She dedicated probably like a fourth or a third of her day to her fitness, and then like the rest of it to being clean and, or like, trying to be, I guess. So you're not going to look like China. What's going to happen is the muscle will replace the fat. That takes a really long time to burn. So, yeah, it's not that you shouldn't do cardio. It's just that cardio should not be the thing you're doing every day if your goal is to lose size. In fact, I'd argue that if you're like above the age of 35, cardio will only shrink your waist to a certain point before you have to start incorporating weightlifting. Also, abs don't work. Don't do abs. I mean, it's not that they don't work. It's just that they're not the most beneficial thing, or they're not the most optimal thing. You should be doing like the leg raises on the machine, or the one where they have the rope and you pull it down. Anything that you could put weight on. Also the wheel, the ab wheel is probably the best thing you could do. But either way, this was me a long time ago, unfortunately. And this is what I can tell you. I did not have a 34-inch waist right here at all. This is probably a 36-inch waist. And again, I'm 5'6.5". So I would not meet the ratios for the military, right? Looking like this. So having these metrics that don't account for higher levels of working out and or athleticism, it can be problematic, right? So that's why I showed that, not to show how jacked I was, even though, I mean, I was pretty jacked back then. Let me see. The Cleveland Clinic lists the average height of American men and women at 5 feet 9 inches and 5 foot. Oh, I read that. The switch in the body composition standards is part of an intense focus on physical fitness by the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who described his vision for the military in a speech the senior uniformed leaders last year. What the fuck? Okay. There will be no fat troops or fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon, because those are the people going to the front lines. Hegseth said in October during a speech at Marine Base Quantico. The Pentagon declined to comment on the guidance about the UFC event. One defense official said the selection requirement for Trump's made-for-TV UFC event send a very clear message to soldiers interested in attending. No fatties. Another defense official familiar with the approval process said senior Pentagon leaders have signaled their preference that the DoD attendees look good on camera during the event. Basically, no fat soldiers, the person said. The guidance also directs commanders to only distribute tickets to genuine UFC fans and to focus on selecting junior enlisted and junior officers, according to the memos reviewed by CNN. So again, this is, are they young, jacked, and good looking, I guess? Because that's who we want in the front row. The problem is like, what about the general who's given like the last 25 years of his life? Like, and he's gained a little weight in the process, as we all do, right? that guy shouldn't be front row. Like, you shouldn't be front row if you've gained a little weight, but you've served like a decade in the military. But this kid who joined last October or last summer should be able to be front row because he's gone through like 3 different basic training camps. I'm not degrading his what he's doing, not at all. I'm just saying that being young and athletic and hot shouldn't give you privilege. Again, I think it's crazy. I think it's super crazy. The Pentagon has tightly orchestrated the optics of Trump's appearances with U.S. troops, including his previous visit to Fort Bragg, where soldiers were handpicked for the audience based on political leanings and physical appearance. The troops ultimately selected to be behind Trump and visible to the cameras were almost exclusively male. Okay, so back to this. Who pays? Oh, wait. White told Time Magazine in a recent interview that he has invited several professional athletes and celebrities, including Tom Brady, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jared Leto, Guy Ritchie, Adam Sandler, Mario Lopez, and Jason Statham. Is it Statham or Statham? I don't know. Who gives a fuck? Who pays for it? In response to those on social media who asked, who's paying for it? The White House swiftly responded on X, UFC. White said the organization would be shouldering the cost of the event, telling Sports Business Journal in January, "We're eating the whole thing," and adding that the lighting grid was part of the high expense. You know, if you've been listening to these Dana White interviews, by the way, he's not going to say that this was a mistake. And I don't think he thinks it's a mistake at this point. What I do think that he's not saying is I don't think he's admitting whether or not he believes the juice is worth the squeeze at this point. It's a really tough show to put on. And is it just going to be a headache, right? Like, imagine doing the hardest job you've ever had to do and you do the best work you've ever done. But there are media people who had their article written up for this a week ago. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what happens, it's going to be a failure to 50%, if not more, of the mainstream media, right? And doesn't help, I don't think, that Joe Rogan's comments have left it open-ended for criticism, right? Like, everybody keeps pulling up that Sean Strickland comment that he told Aiden Ross, where he's like, yeah, dude, I don't know how cool it is to fight in front of a bunch of billionaires in the Epstein class. Like, it's like Roman times where the poor and the slaves were like forced to fight in front of the rich aristocrats. First of all, that he was quoting Brandon Royval, right? Like, he was quoting Brandon. And second of all, that's a super old quote. So again, they're looking for what they can use to circumvent the most authentic narrative while upplaying the most obvious obstacles. I hope I said that correctly. What happens if what? Oh, Mark Shapiro, the president of TKO Holdings Groups, which owns UFC, said in a separate interview, the Sports Business Journal, that despite the estimated $60 million cost, the venue is an opportunity for the brand, given the earned media attention surrounding the massive events. What happens if it rains? A second White House official said that the weather is certainly a factor given the fight is outside. But the hope is that the fight forecast is clear. In the interview with Fox News, White said he hates having fights outdoors because of the unpredictability. But he said the team will be working with the U.S. military to monitor the weather by the hour and make any necessary changes. If it rains, we're going. If it snows, we're going. The only thing that will stop us is lightning. But we're working with the military, so the military knows the weather 10 days out. And they'll notify us every 2 hours, 10 days out. You know what's so fucked up about this is that he's right. The military has a budget that allows them to track weather all over the globe 10 days out. You know who doesn't anymore? Fucking us. They cut the weather shit so badly. Like, oh man. Here's the thing. If you have had crazy weather over the last several months, like we have in Corpus, you know how fucked up the federal weather system is, dude. It's like crazy. Or not the weather system, but like the like there's no money to give us the quality of weather reports that we once got. At least I feel that way. I don't know. Maybe it's the apps. Maybe they suck. If it rains, we're going blah, blah, blah. So we could move the event to, the only thing that kills us is lightning. So we could move the event 2 hours earlier, 2 hours after. The only other UFC event that has been held outdoors was in Abu Dhabi in 2010, White told Fox. I remember that. Kind of a gimmick. The White House has faced some criticism for hosting the UFC on the South Lawn, including from Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's press office, which wrote on X, Mr. President, we just want lower gas prices. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren posted a picture of the UFC construction, writing, it might be hard to see from this picture today of the White House, but Donald Trump is very focused on lowering costs. That's a good one. Notably, podcast host Joe Rogan, who also commentates for the UFC, said on his show that the fight is kind of a gimmick and a security nightmare, but he plans on attending the event. I'll be there, but I'm not thrilled about it, Rogan said. It just doesn't seem like a wise idea. In the Time magazine article on White, Trump responded to Rogan's criticism. At first, I thought, that's not nice, Trump said. And then I realized it is a gimmick. Like life is a gimmick, if you think about it, right? But it's a good gimmick. It's something that will never happen again. That's not a ringing endorsement. Like, it'll never happen again is you saying this is a mistake, because they hated the Abu Dhabi venue the first time they went when Anderson Silva shit the bed. But they went back. They just didn't do the outside thing anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're telling us that this won't even remotely happen again, I think you're telling us that, yeah, nobody will ever be dumb enough to try this again. Or not dumb enough, but like, we now have the knowledge and the experience to know that the idea isn't worth it. That's what I think he's saying. I don't think we can know that until the event happens. I don't think we can know that until we see, the numbers. I don't even think we can fully understand how big of an impact this might have for another like 5 years, right? Like, the UFC is trying to enter a new place in the zeitgeist of combat sports. It's going to be very high security, high stress, and weird to have a fight at the White House in the middle of a fucking war. Yeah, that he also made that point too, about the war thing. But anyway, do you think Bilal will let Ben Askren win, or will he expose himself as a massive asshole? Oh no, that's a good question. That is a very good question. Yeah, if you didn't hear, Ben Askren has returned to the sport. He announced it. Where did he announce it? Let me find it real quick. Excuse me. Damn, he looks crazy. So let's see. All right. So, the narrative on Ben Askren, if you're not aware, is he suffered a very severe medical issue, and the severity of it was, what's the word? He was able to rally the community behind him, right? Like, the MMA community is very split. So is boxing. So is wrestling, by the way. But there are times that we all come together, and this Ben Askren situation was one of them. A lot of fans, donated. A lot of fans, sent their well wishes. And the MMA world, the community, which can feel really massive sometimes, but it really is a small circle of at the top, really. And so, like, guys like Joe Rogan, there was a lot of people at the top that really made a point to make sure people were aware of what was going on with Ben. And well, it looks like he's doing better, obviously. And it turns out that he's going to be fighting Real American Freestyle 11 against Bilal Muhammad. Muhammad is tasked with a unique situation July 18th when he serves as the opponent for Askren in the former Bellator champ's first competition since a near-death encounter with pneumonia that ultimately led to a double lung replacement surgery. The idea of Askren recovering to the point of living a long and healthy life after his operation was the primary focus once he came out of the darkest points of his health scare. No one dared to even propose a possibility of him competing, but then Muhammad got the call with the offer. Once he was assured his opponent's health is in order, he pounced. They brought it to me last week, and obviously my first question was the same as everyone else. Is he healthy? Is he good? Muhammad told MMA Junkie on Tuesday. They said, yeah, he's healthy. He's good. He's training wrestling. Obviously, his story is epic. It's a miracle that he's even here today. The fact that he wants to compete and I get to be in there with him to be part of that story is huge. It's an honor to be there in his hometown, to be his comeback match. It could be his last match. I wasn't going to say no at all. It's a tad of an awkward spot for Muhammad. If he wipes Askren out, he will get criticized and receive no appreciation for beating someone who was on life support roughly 1 year ago. If he loses, the backlash poking fun at him will be even stronger. None of these realities are lost on Muhammad, and he's already accepted them no matter how things go. He's winning at life just being there, Muhammad said. Winning at life just being willing to compete again, to be on the mats again. There's no losing. It's a lose-lose situation for me, right? If I win, I'm going to get booed. If I lose, I'm going to get booed regardless. For myself, it's a win just to be a part of it. Before RAF 11, Muhammad, 24-5 in MMA, 15-5 in the UFC, will first compete in Saturday's UFC Fight Night 278 headliner against Gabriel Bonfim, 19-1 MMA, 6-1 UFC at the Meta Apex in Las Vegas, Paramount Plus. He has a bit of a history with Askren. They both trained under the Rufus Sport banner earlier in their careers, although they aren't close friends. Muhammad has a full appreciation for Askren and his story. When I was still at Titan FC, I was able to get work with him. He was the Bellator champion at that time, Muhammad said. Obviously, I was looking at him like, damn, this guy's a champion. He's a beast. That's where I want to be. He was always nice. He was always cool. Hearing his story and seeing his story, a lot of my close friends and training partners are really close with him. To hear more from Muhammad, check out his complete appearance on the Bonfire podcast with MMA Junkie. Senior reporter Mike Bond, my bad. Yeah. So that is a absolutely fascinating matchup. For a lot of reasons, really, but more than anything, obviously, we're going to see if Ben Askren, it would be amazing to see him win. That's a movie right there, I think, if he comes back and wins. I think he could come back and lose, and that's still a movie. I mean, the fact that he's about to do, I would argue, the hardest sport, wrestling. I would argue the hardest sport. Or the most grueling, the most grinding, maybe, could we say? I would say that, right? And so, like, here he's coming back to do the thing that he did so well in his life. But yeah, dude, Bilal is like, yikes. He's in a lose-lose situation. For real. Like, no doubt about it. Lose-lose situation. I don't know. I think there's different ways to handle it, but I don't think ultimately he'll ever like, it's a paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, what does Bilal care? You know what I mean? It's more important to win his UFC fights anyway. But yeah, listen, I am going to, let's see. Oh shit. Whoa. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Wade's not coming on. I do not think it is a duck in any way. I don't think he's avoiding it. He's one of the biggest content providers in combat sports. So I understand when things like that happen. Yeah, I don't know, champ. I sent him the link. He hasn't messaged me or said anything yet. I don't know. 6 o'clock. I mean, I was a little behind. I sent it to him at 6:03. But yeah, so listen, I'll find out what happened. Maybe hopefully he'll come on tomorrow. But I'm just gonna say this. My problem was, it's not even a problem. Look, if you've been covering boxing, MMA, and or wrestling over the last decade, there is a real reason to start covering all of them now, right? I think that people should give Ariel a lot of credit, even though a lot of people don't, appreciate his place in the sport of MMA right now. I do. But even though there's a lot of people that they should appreciate the fact that he's trying to put everybody on, right? Um, I I think that what's going on here is that there's a race to cover like everything, and people know that it's much better to cover like, you're going to get like if you cover everything, you're going to have WrestleMania at some point, right? And you're going to have like boot size type fights at some point, right? And you're going to have the UFC White House at some point, right? But if you just cover one of those things, there are lulls in your sport. I don't have any issues with anyone at any level covering multiple sports. What I do think it is disingenuous to allow your narrative to speak to something that you don't really have the experience with. And this was the whole point, right? The whole topic was about Mick Foley leaving to AEW with WWE. And this talking point that I keep hearing, like, Tony Khan's dad has donated to the Trump regime. I feel like sometimes Wade is playing, and I'm not even going to pick on Wade here. He didn't show up yet. Hopefully he does this week, but I'm not going to pick on him. I'm just going to say, like, I think there's a part of the community that gravitates towards a certain narrative because they know that that narrative will lead to clicks, right? It'll lead to bigger fan bases, right? What I don't think will happen though is or what I think the issue here is that this is a guy covering wrestling who just started covering wrestling. Maybe he was like a fan during the Warrior days or the Hulk Hogan days, right? But like, there's a clear distinction between Raw or WWE and that of AEW and Dynamite. For Wade to call Mick Foley hypocritical seems like it's just a dog whistle or signal boosting or something in that vein, where you're suggesting that there isn't a difference between the two as it relates to the political landscape. So either you're being disingenuous by ignoring the patterns and the evidence that we've had over the years, decades really, dating back to before TKO in the Vince McMahon era, versus a company willing to have one of their biggest matches, most brightest spotlights on weekly TV, and have everybody say fuck ICE. Again, I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I'm not saying one's better or worse. What I am saying is that there is a clear difference. It feels like guys that cover the sport today want to be able to double down on the affiliations of whatever sport and or platform they're covering versus like an authentic conversation about it, right? I think Wade Clemens is an incredible combat sports MMA guy, talking points, everything, right? I think he understands at a super high level. I don't think he's tapped in enough to the fight community overall to understand where the dividing line even exists, right? Like, I don't feel divided being a WWE fan or a UFC fan, not at all. I'm not MAGA. I didn't vote for Trump. I mean, I was a Republican at 18, registered, voted for Bush twice. You know what I'm saying? But no, I don't. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a MAGA guy. And yet I can watch the UFC 250 event without that bias, without pretending this world exists in a way that it doesn't, right? Like, is the president of the United States a pedo? I don't know. I don't know for sure. All I know is the accusations go back before 2016. They go back before his political aspirations. They go back to a long time ago, actually, some of them, right? And so to say that there's no reason to have that conversation is disingenuous. You know what I mean? Just like Hunter Biden and his Burisma shit, right? That had everybody pissed off. Me too, right? I hated it. I was like, "Are you shitting me? You fucking shit! You could have done anything in the world with that name, and you used it to profit, you know, enrich, you know, another country's um business to support your own." And then, you know, Burisma was investigated, showed, you know, not what we all thought it was going to be, right? And now you got like the Trump kids and Trump like making money hand over fist. Like, I don't like any of those things. I'm not a liberal or a snowflake or a Democrat or a progressive just because I don't want fucking elected officials making money off of their offices, right? Like senators made a shit ton of money, a lot of money off of COVID because they knew things before we did. Is that okay? Shouldn't that have been one of Trump's biggest fucking platform talking points if getting corruption out of DC was his main talking point? It doesn't make me a fucking Biden fan to say these things. And but it does make you a liar to pretend they don't exist. And so again, I'm not going to pick on Wade I'm not going to attribute every single thing I see to that side on Wade. That's why I wanted him to come on, right? That's why I respected the idea. People were like, "Oh, you switched up quick when he said you wanted to go live." Yeah, because I fucking respect that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck. Your pussy asses don't come on. All y'all do is talk shit in the fucking chat that I can't even post. Y'all fucking bitches. And I don't fucking do. What do? I don't do nothing. I haven't banned any of y'all. None of y'all. Not even the psycho with the Nazi ideas. Never banned any of y'all. And I won't. I won't ban y'all. Cause I'm come on, let's go. We'll have the talking points. I don't give a fuck. You think I give a fuck? I don't. Like, it's crazy. I work for TBV, champ. I didn't work for the Ring. I didn't work for ESPN. You know what I'm saying? I work for TBV. I work for Esquizero.com. I work for Premier Round One magazine. You know what I'm saying, champ? I didn't work for them dudes. Like, I don't know how to do that. Right? Like, I don't know how to do what you're saying to do. But yeah, listen, again, I hate all this. I do. I fucking hate it. I hate that this is the aspect of everything, right? And you could blame McFoley for making it a talking point. I think that it's fair to attribute, you know, the reshaping of it, or not reshaping, the reoccurrence of the talking points, right? But to pretend like you don't see the difference in him leaving an organization for which, like, nobody even knew Linda McMahon wasn't his wife until we found out that he was naming dildos after the Undertaker. Like, that we found out that they were not even living together. At the same time, we found out that Vince was using purple dildos and black dildos named after Undertaker and Stone Cold. Right? That's not my narrative. I don't know that to be true. I've never met Vince. This is what it's said in the, you know, documentation. Like, if you haven't read the text messages, go find them and read them. Vince is like a weird fucking dude. Like, I have an idea, a theory. I'm not saying it's true at all. I'm not saying it's true at all. But all I know is that it seems like once you make enough money, like you make like Epstein type money, it's like you've done everything, right? So it's like, I want to do the things that I can't do or that society says I'm not supposed to do. I don't know. It just kind of feels like that. Who knows? Yeah, champ. I don't know. I hit him up just now, but I can't stay on more than another 20 minutes. I don't know. I'll see what's up. You know, there's a lot of people talking shit on X, so I'm sure he's going to see it later. Tony and Shad ain't standing behind Trump while he discusses policy. Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Stooges React. I think I said it right. Shout out to Stooges React. He's absolutely right. Like, look, let's fucking do this then, right? This wasn't the narrative I was going to go with. What's wrong? Oh, okay. Let's go with the narrative real quick, just real quick, right? Because I don't have that much longer, but we'll get this done, right? So at the end of the day, Vince McMahon blames Democrats, the liberal and progressive agenda, for his court issues in the 90s as it relates to his steroid trial, right? He believed that this was a liberal democratic agenda to attack him and bring him down, right? Now, I'm not saying that's true, and I'm not saying it's not true. That's not the point of this. The point I'm bringing is this is how Vince felt, and he made that very clear in many interviews, okay? On top of that, there were so many times that you could see it on WWE TV. I'll give you one example. It was the Royal Rumble, 1993. I just watched it on Netflix, by the way. IRS, who was a heel, $1 Million Man's, Virgil after Virgil. And the IRS character was a heel, and his whole thing was like, I'm going to tax your ass, right? And it's like, oh, the IRS are the bad guys because they tax you, right? And obviously, who the fuck likes IRS, right? So it was like a really good heel gimmick, right? This idea that we all generally distrust the IRS, right? Or that this is like an agency with way too much power, right? All these narratives are like they're normal, right? You could be a progressive, you could be a conservative, and you could still have these, ideas about the IRS. Vince McMahon booked a Bill Clinton impersonator and had a segment with him and IRS where Clinton was like, hey, I appreciate everything you do, champ. Hey, you know what I'm talking about. You know what time it is, right? Hey, I got that little extra thing for you. You know that cake with the wife's homemade pie? Bro, you've seen Shawshank. I got that for you in the back, champ. Don't worry about it. And then Bill's like, hey, me and IRS, we're best buds, bro. He's my favorite wrestler. Like, it was that type shit, right? And so, like, obviously that's like a comedic segment, right? And everybody knows that's not really Bill Clinton. And yet that narrative has existed since the late 80s and then began to get ramped up in the 90s, specifically during the trial and afterwards. Donald Trump is not just a political ally. He helped WrestleMania, right? If you saw the WrestleMania documentary, right? Or the Hulk Hogan one, I should say, President Trump is in it, and he talks about the significance of WrestleMania and all those things, right? I don't think he understood. I don't think he understood, like, there's a working relationship, right? So if you want to say that Mick Foley was always part of that, and then Trump's presidency, right, like interweave with that, it's not to call it to go. Shout out to Alex. He said, I'm about to go see Backrooms. Have a great night, Mario. We both getting laid tonight. Champ. Yo, please come back tomorrow and tell me how Backrooms is. I have had 5 people tell me absolutely different things, and 2 of them loved it. 3 of them hated it. Please tell me if Backrooms is worth it or not, because I still haven't seen Obsession, and apparently Obsession is like the best horror movie in the last decade. If you haven't heard, Obsession did something that no movies do. Like, every movie that comes out, whether it's Jurassic Park, Doomsday, whatever it is, Avengers, the biggest franchises in the world, they come out, they have the top numbers opening week, and then the second week it decreases by up to 50%, right? Nobody has more ticket sales in their second week and beyond than their first week. Obsessions went 4 or 5 weeks up, just straight up. The first week it came out, it did whatever numbers it did. Then it doubled it the second week. And then I don't know what it did the third and fourth, but it went up. And so definitely want to go see that. But Backrooms looks absolutely cool as shit. I love the alien stuff, right? Like Ryan, look, this is the last thing I'm going to say before I jump off. Ryan Garcia, like I'm not scared of him. I'm scared for him, right? Because he seems like, I don't know, misguided for sure, but like just like I just imagine growing up in LA or like California, like he did, and being like a boxer and super famous at like a super young age. Like, I mean, he's got to have like a super, like, I don't know. I can't imagine he paid much attention in school. And that doesn't mean you're not smart or anything else, but then you got to focus on this craft of boxing that's so physically and mentally draining. I don't see where he'd have the time for anything else. And that proves it by him saying that the UAPs are, hold on, I have it right here. Demons. Yeah, he said he thinks that the UAP stuff is demons. I think the UAP stuff is reality. I think it's the reality we've always lived in. Not saying they're little green men, don't know what they are. I know that they have propulsions that absolutely go beyond anything we can do. I know that Einstein's theory of relativity and most of his math checks out as it relates to, like, okay, time travel is not fiction. Time travel is not science fiction. Time travel is an absolutely real thing that can be done. The math shows that it can. The problem is that we couldn't, there's not an energy source, powerful enough for us to draw from to be able to do that, right? So, yeah, it's very unlikely that these things are coming from distant galaxies that would take, 30,000 years to get here, or some crazy shit. It's a lot more likely that they were always here, or travel through means that we can't even understand yet, right? And yet they're all possible, right? Wormholes are possible mathematically. Black holes are black holes and universal power is absolutely capable of being tapped into, right? And again, if we could tap into the universe's power or even our Earth's power, right? There's a scale of civilizations for which people are judged, or I forget what it's, Kaiser scale. I think it's called the Kaiser scale. The Kaiser Sose scale. No, I'm just playing. No, I think it is called the Kaiser scale, if I'm not mistaken. But it ranks a civilization's advancement, like how advanced they are, right? So there's the type 1 civilizations that are able to get the power out of their own planet. Then there's type 2 civilizations that are able to draw the energy from their sun, right? So like if we were able to like harness the sun's energy fully, then we would be a type 2 civilization, right? Now we can harness the sun and the earth's resources to a degree, but they're very limiting, right? We don't have the ability to power the entire world or make fossil fuels obsolete. Once that day comes and we have, then maybe we'll be a type 1 civilization. Right now, as it exists, we're type 0. Actually, we're like a 0.8 or 0.9 civilization, right? Because we can utilize the earth, we can utilize the sun, but a type 3 civilization would be able to use the power of their entire solar system, right? Possibly a black hole. And that kind of power is unmeasurable for us. It is not quantifiable. But it's all been there forever. So if you think that aliens are demons, it's probably a comment on how big of a dipshit you are. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. It's probably a comment on how ideologically captured you've become, right? I'm a Christian because I believe that Jesus walked this earth and is the Son of God. I also believe that we're all the Son of God and children of God, but technically I'm a Christian because of that, right? Also, I was raised Catholic, and most of my family is either Christian or Catholic. And yet, that said, I don't believe I worship a God that's different from Muslims or Jews or anything. I also never thought that my God was responsible for everything that happened on earth and not in the planets out there, right? So it's like, you believe in a real God, like an actual God that can actually be a God, like a designer. I don't think he's got like hands and feet, you know what I mean? Or like a dick or a vagina. I'm pretty sure that's like silly, right? He's not Santa, but it's a conscious designer, then he has consciously designed other things, right? It didn't stop at Earth. You know, and by the way, it's almost a mathematical certainty that life exists on other planets, right? Now, they could be like microscopic, or they could be like fish and like sea life type stuff, right? Like in water. Because there's like a lot of like other planets that we found that are like mostly water, like us. So there's a good likelihood that there are unintelligent life out there, or at least limited intelligent life out there. That doesn't mean that they've all come here, they can come here, but it certainly does leave a window open for the possibility of civilizations more advanced than us. And I think if you've ever really given a good idea of what God could be, that's well within his power to create civilizations dumber than us, smarter than us, brighter than us, more advanced than us. Yeah, doesn't seem fucking, I don't know. But Ryan Garcia is also the guy that said the N-word like 50 times and said that he wanted to bring back George Floyd just to unalive him again. I think we have to say that every once in a while so that we don't forget, because boxing wants you to forget. I hope you know that. Boxing wants you to forget that Ryan Garcia said all those things. Right now, one of the worst, like Chud the Builder, I'm sure a lot of you have heard what happened with Chud the Builder, right? One of the most grotesque things that have ever happened in the online community era, right? This guy who's been basically trolling to have somebody attack him so that he could use deadly force. Claims to be a proponent of free speech, which is, I mean, just a low IQ thing to say, right? And I can tell you that anybody who adds to the friction between races should be considered like an enemy of like our civilization, right? Like all of us trying, like, I don't want to go to Walmart and have to worry about like a race war breaking out, right? Like I don't want to have to go to like Stripes and be pumping gas and like it become Mexicans versus blacks, or like whites versus, like, I don't want that. I don't want to live in that world. If that's the world you want to live in, then dude, get the fuck out. Like go somewhere else. Like we don't want that shit. Like 90% of the community was sending the mayor letters to get Chud the Builder out, right? And I ask you this. If you look at the context for which Ryan Garcia used that language, what is the difference between what Chud the Builder did and what Ryan Garcia did? I can tell you the difference of the outcome. Chud the Builder is looking at some crazy, crazy time in jail, while Ryan Garcia's image was washed away. And believe me, if they could do that with Chud, they would, right? They did it with Aiden. They did it with Neon. They've done it with all these streamers, right? They've all done things that are stupid or said things that are stupid. My biggest problems are like the Nelk Boys guys, right? And Neon's era, where they would just like fuck with like minimum wage workers, like at HEB or Walmart or like Stripes or Circle K or something, or 7-Eleven, and they just go fuck with them for hours, or like fake buying shit at Best Buy and then trying to pay with like yen or money from Mexico. Like those kids have millions of dollars, and that Best Buy assistant manager made like a tenth of what they make, you know, for the year, and compared to their week. And he has a full family at Neon, and those guys and the Nelk Boys didn't, right? So like that's the shit that bothered me. But I don't know. Also, them getting like to interview like all the best fighters in the world is fucked up, right? Because it's like, what are the Nelk Boys going to talk to Canelo about? You know what I mean? Like, if Canelo was on that couch, bro, no, I'm not bringing up the cartel, but we would have a real conversation. We'll have a real conversation. You know, shit going on in Mexico right now is crazy. I mean, it's been crazy, but now it's like getting crazy from multiple sides, right? Because like the problems were always there, but now there's this narrative to highlight them in a way that doesn't support the actual evidence. And who knows why they're trying to do that. But guys, I tried to wait as long as I could. Maybe, you know, I'm going to take the L. I'm going to take the L because even Abe didn't understand what the fuck I was talking about. So I'm assuming Wade probably thought I went like 4 his time. Well, that would have been 6 my time, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I fucked up. I'm sure I did. I don't think Wade would agree to come on and then not come on, right? That said, I appreciate everybody that tapped in. I will reach out to him and see if we can run this back. If you didn't catch Abe Gonzalez Fights ATW's own Abe Gonzalez at the beginning of the show, do so. It was a very, very good conversation regarding wrestling. And then the final conversation we had was about Shakur. We'll be live again tomorrow. We'll be live again Thursday. And then we will be live again for this UFC this weekend. Let me see. There's no boxing this weekend, right? Or am I tripping? Is there boxing this weekend? Oh yeah, Lerone Richards. I forgot the Albert Ramirez fight. That's on Thursday though. Yeah. Oh, Josh Padley fights. Nadim's fighting on that card too against Ibrahim Suleiman. Troy Coleman as the B side. Who's the? Oh, he's fighting Aaron Bowen. I don't really know him very well. Edward Hardy's on that card. Yeah, not like a really great week. Oh, I forgot the Chris Bill and Smith fight. He's fighting Ryan Rozicki. That's going to be a decent fight. Chevron Clark's in the co-main event. Lee Cutler's also on the card. Stephen McKenna is also on the card. Leon Hughes is also on the card. So, some decent high C to mid B level fighters, or maybe low B level fighters. Yeah, that's it for this weekend. But then next week, we got the O'Shea Jones fight for her IBF title. And then Tiara Brown's also on that card. That's the MVP card. And then Antonio Vargas, Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Fight that I've been waiting for some time. Cannot wait for this fight. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, is that? I thought that was next week. Wait, where is it? Okay. Here is the O'Shea Foster. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Glendale, Arizona, on DAZN this next weekend. Antonio Vargas versus Jesse Bam Rodriguez for Vargas's WBA bantamweight title. How dope would it be if Bam and the Spurs won world championships in the same month? That would be dope. That would be dope. And then, that's the Ashton Silva and Jojo Diaz is next week. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. And if you haven't done so, please hit the like, please hit the follow, please hit the sub, whatever platform you're on. And if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed the commentary, do me a favor, go to @InfightingFX on YouTube, on Twitch, and on TikTok, as well as X, and follow me there. You can watch the platform from anywhere, but YouTube and Twitch are the way to comment and join the show. And then on IG, you can follow me personally at Mario Mungia, MarioMungia. Appreciate everybody who tapped in. I'm really sorry Wade didn't come on. Again, I'm going to take that L myself. I think I said in the right time, but because I'm not sure, I'm just going to say that was my fault. I don't believe he ducked. I don't believe he, either something came up or he didn't, or I led him to believe the wrong time. I think those are the two most likely scenarios, but I'll hit him up. I'll DM him and see if, he's interested in coming on tomorrow or maybe Thursday, but either way, appreciate everybody who tapped in, and I will be back tomorrow. Infighting FX, all platforms. Tap in, hit the follow, hit the sub. Sharing it would be like super helpful, actually. But yeah, until tomorrow, peace.